but I'm not sure what like, I don't think you can stick them on a wall. I think it'll peel off, but it's still pretty cool though. I mean,
I put mine on my Mac. I've got ones on my MacBook. Okay, I'm going to take us live now.
But I guess it's good they give you something though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't complain about that. So, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So hey, anytime you go there and spend, I guess with all that money, I guess with all that money they charge for that stuff, I guess at least they can just give you a freaking koozie.
Well, that's what Alex.
Now the proud owner now of this koozie, so I'm very excited.
That's what Alex at Square Brew was saying. Was like if he charged, he would go out of business. He wouldn't be able to maintain a business if he charged what what Square or not Square Brew, but what Treehouse does.
No, probably not.
By the way, I'm giving Alex some. Wearing my local beer shirt today.
Oh, cool. But no, nobody can charge what they charge. But the thing about it, though, it is that good, and I'll be curious to see what happens once they do open up down here.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'll be the number one customer on it. Freaking, the stuff is so good though. But it's so expensive. But it's worth it though. Hey, I mean, nothing wrong with paying for money. I mean, paying for stuff if it's worth.
Well, no, exactly. No, I'm one that is like I will pay whatever for beer because. I mean,
they should be paying you to drink the beer at this point, for God's sake. You're
no kidding.
Frequent drinker club in every freaking place in Ontario.
We are live.
We're going live now?
Yeah, we are. I said that already.
You didn't?
I said I hit.
All right.
Hey. Record. Hey, listen. I said I hit record.
You said
like, okay. And then I said, okay, we're live now. And you're like, okay.
I didn't remember hearing that. Anyway, okay. Well, hey, I guess we are.
Is that selective hearing again? Hey, Jay Price.
Okay. Oh, hey, good morning. Whoa, Jen Price is here. You know what's great is when people tie her laces together and she can't untie them, then she has to stay with us and watch them. Isn't that really cool? So whoever's doing that, we appreciate it. But good morning, everybody. Good morning,
Ben.
everyone. Good morning, Frail,
Wayne, Snyder,
Jim, Wayne, the whole gang getting up and at 'em early. So yeah, so
hey, Bob.
God, it's cold. It's freaking cold out today, Mary. It's cold out today.
Yes, it's here.
It's hard to believe that we're looking at like
it's spring today, actually. I went out for and again, like a plug for local business. If you're ever in Goderich, get to Kate's Cafe. It's really good.
Is today the first day of spring, really?
I think so.
I thought it was like the 22nd, or I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, maybe not. Oh, you know what? No, it's the 21st because it's the same day as my grandfather's birthday, which he would be 101 this year.
Wow. I wouldn't even make it a fraction. You know, we've been live for 10 minutes. You probably have, actually. Thank you, Darren, for the show. Oh no, Jim, my pleasure. I think your stuff is great. I think you have 22 new followers. Sweet.
Awesome, Jim. That's great.
No, Jim Miller. He's the man on Twitter with that blog. If anybody who doesn't follow him on Twitter, do it because he's a great read. I read that stuff all the time. It's short, it's quick, it's to the point. Yeah. It's a great, perfect. And Jim's a good.
He's a fun guy.
He's one of our faves. So happy to do it, Jim. I think
Jim was at our roundtable the other night too. He's an awesome.
He was a lot of people. That was fun. Jim, that was a good time.
I think Jim has been at almost every single one of our Facebook lives. And he's been at every single one of our roundtables, and he always like brings something awesome to the table with him. So that's cool. He knows his Civil War stuff, that's for sure.
No, he definitely does. So,
hey,
Thomas Brown, good morning. It'll be 50s today on Long Island. Yeah, it's supposed to be warm here later today, but it's just cold right now. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow. Good morning from Arlington, Virginia. Yeah, Mike jumps on a lot.
Hey, LEK. Hey, Mark. Mark from our class is here.
Yeah, top of the morning to you all.
Hey, Tony. Oh my God, Tony, you're a trooper to be here. He's in California.
California 706. Now he'll be a real trooper if he's throwing a few back of Grandpa's old cough medicine, Tony. You'd be a real hero then. You'd be a real wall fan.
I have not opened my beer yet because I'm still finishing my snobby matcha latte.
Oh, with your green tea, freaking. Anyway.
Don't knock it till you try it. It's good for you.
I will try it at some point. I just can't imagine going into a Starbucks or a place like that and getting that when there's so many other good things to get.
This is from Kate's Cafe, which is Goddard.
Wow, you know about Kate. I want to get going about her. Anyway, yeah. So it's going to be.
Hey, Snyder just made a comment. This general got shot in the arm. The arm ARM from the round table the other night.
Oh yeah. But whoever was on the round table, that was, you know what was so funny so we're doing this trivia and and we're asking the questions and we had these rules put in place. You have to answer. That was for the first 5 or 6 people that those answers were the ones that you put in. And And it was someone who was like blatantly, it wasn't cheating because we didn't say you can't look it up, but it was so funny because he had like whoever it was had his wife or someone Googling the stuff, and she was like relaying the info, and it was so funny. And all I could think about how badly it was for old Allie Biddles, because she started to answer, and then she was laughing so hard she couldn't even answer. So that lady probably cost her a book, actually. So
it's so fun. It was so funny, and it was just like, and he was like, and she was spelling stuff back to him. It's Cartlet Station.
It's Catlet, C-A-T-L-E. No, C-A-T. It was so funny.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Good morning.
I think that might be Lisa's husband that's hopping on here, actually.
Oh, cool.
I think.
Well, can't be too many Sammys walking the planet. So hopefully it is. I love Starbucks. Jim, you're boycotting Dunkin's. See, the thing about it though is where I live, if you boycott Dunkin', you might as well boycott your oxygen.
That's actually like boycotting Tim Hortons, which I have done here. So they're gonna like revoke my Canadian card.
No, that's probably how that coming anyway. But Starbucks is pretty good though. But I do have fun with the names. I do have fun.
Yeah. See, they don't do that at Kate's. I wanted to because I was just gonna do Garnett this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for a name.
What was so funny was last summer because I would do that every time I go, and I used to go to Starbucks like every week. I usually do in the summertime when it's warm when I go for a walk from work, but I would always use Cadmus. That was my name I always used, and I decided to change up and go with Moxley, right? And it's one of those places that's always busy, so they always do it. And so I go, yeah, can I get a whatever I get at the time, and she goes, name? And I go, oh, it's Moxley. And she goes, oh, I thought your name was Cadmus. It was so funny. I was like, oh, I'm getting it for somebody else. I totally like, it was kind of like that whole imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah.
It was like that. So it was pretty funny though. But I definitely got a kick out of that. There used to be a place here called Mary Lou's Coffee. You mentioned Kate's Coffee down here in Cape Cod, in the South Shore of Massachusetts. It was so good. And it was kind of like the Hooters of coffee, where the girls were dressed like Hooter girls, sort of. No, seriously. But the coffee was so good. But they had like these horrific names for their coffee drinks that were just impossible to order. Like they had they had a drink. It was like a ice coffee called it was like a mocha thing, but it was called a Girl Scout because it was after the Girl Scout mint cookie thing. And all their coffees were named after American, Brazilian. So I went to the drive-through one time, and I had to order for me and for a friend of mine. I was going to a baseball game, and she goes, yeah, can I help you? I go, yeah, I'm going to order something. I can't believe I'd ever actually say this, but can I please get a Black American and a Girl Scout to go? You're like, okay, but that's the name they call it. It just sounds so awful ordering it.
Oh my God.
But that's what they called it. And then when you get the coffee to the drive-through, the window's really high, so the girl has to lean way forward to get your coffee, and they all with it's bad. But you know what though? But the coffee was real. Honest to God, though, Mary, the coffee was probably the best. It was just a homemade local, had two or three shops. They still have one in Hyannis here.
Yeah, Kate's is not. I can tell you, Kate's is not like that. It's like some people think Kate's is too expensive, but I will go and drop money there because A, it's local, and B, it's really, really good. And they make these like really good chocolate croissants too.
I mean, a croissant. Show a little culture for once. I mean, would it kill you to show a little?
Do you know how bad I did? And I almost flunked French class in grade 10.
Would they have math questions in there?
Yeah, they did. No, because I couldn't pronounce this.
Today we're going to talk about the math.
Yeah, would you believe I couldn't? Yeah, fucker. Would you believe I couldn't get the pronunciations correct?
No, I can't believe that at all. Anyway, so hey, good morning to you. Kind of a slow wine today, but how's everything going? How's your week been?
Good. Now that I was a bit of a zombie the first few days because of the stupid time change, I finally came out of that fog on Wednesday.
You finally got that clock in your car fixed?
Yes. Did you change yours?
No, it's fixed now. It's fixed for the next 6 months.
No, I was going to keep it that way, but then I don't know, my dad drove my car one day and he changed it for me. Like back.
It's just Caribou Coffee. Allie, I was in Denver one time. I found myself in Denver, and there's a Caribou Coffee's another place, and we were driving somewhere with my friend Chris, and we went to the drive-through, and it was this little Caribou Coffee in the middle of nowhere, and it was like you couldn't even tell they were open. It was like 8 a.m. We pull up to the drive-through, right? You know how they have the speakers? Sometimes you can hear the people talking.
Yeah.
You hear like this thing come on. All of a sudden, this lady go, "Holy shit, a customer!" I'm like, "Oh, this coffee's gonna suck," But it was pretty good though. It was actually that we were going to Estes Park, Colorado, which is we went to the Stanley Hotel to do a little ghost hunting, Mary.
Yeah.
This is back in my ghost hunting days, back in the old Taps thing, and we it was the same hotel that Dumb and Dumber was filmed in.
Yep.
That scene, and it was also the same hotel that the Shining was after. But that's a Spark, a good place. But boy, we've really got off the track already, huh?
I know. I'm just going back looking at some of these comments here. Jim said, with the exception of the first 4 lives, everyone, I got my first vaccine shot on Thursday. So in about a month, I'll be starting my historical travels. So I may be sporadic until the late fall. That's totally cool, Jim. Yeah. If you gotta get on travel, like, oh my God.
I got a long way to go to get those stupid shots, probably. I'll be on COVID 24 by the time I get my shot.
Oh, Jim said that he had a Juice Project Citra Idaho 7 last night. Really good Treehouse beer.
Really? Jim Miller had Treehouse?
No, Jim Samia.
Oh, Jim Samia. So Jim, remember that so I didn't realize he was a member of Team Treehouse. So the Samia families are
I will be a member of Team Treehouse post-COVID when I can actually maybe finally buy some at some point.
Mm-hmm. Hey, good morning, Allie Biddles. We were just talking about you laughing and affecting your trivia contest. Those people blatantly cheating in the contest the other day.
That was so funny.
That was so funny.
Hey, Allie. Well, thank you for jumping on, Allie.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I was in Denver for the College Hockey Frozen Four in 2008. I think it was one of the several times Boston College won the national championship. It was fun, But so anyway, so we did Kernstown this time.
Yep, we're back in the Eastern Theater. Yeah, no, it was a good. It's not a battle that I admittedly knew a lot about going into, but the thing that I learned, and we said this in the episode, was the far-reaching effects it had. And I think it's like, I think everybody just looks at Jackson's Valley campaign and think, oh, it's brilliant or whatever. But this is where Jackson really, he really fucks up here. This is not Jackson's shining moment. The Valley campaign as a whole is brilliant, but it's kind of like the Vicksburg campaign in Sherman. It's brilliant, but Chickasaw is not Sherman's finest moment, right?
No, it absolutely was not. Despite the steaming beer pee someone took on you on Twitter that Tuesday after we finished recording that, by the way. That was not good.
What was I got called pathetic?
You were called pathetic?
Yeah.
Which is, it is what it is. And what else? And a hater. You're a hater.
Yeah, I was a hater and I was pathetic because I tweeted out from a podcast account.
I mean, I'm not. Was I laughing?
That Kernstown. Yeah, I was laughing about it too because it was just typical of this.
You weren't laughing. Are you full of shit? You were so pissed off. Yeah. I was laughing. You were laughing, all right.
I was laughing.
You laughed like the Joker in that friggin' Batman movie. You were laughing.
I'm laughing about it now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Bob watching Vegas. We were just talking about Vegas, Mary.
We were. Vegas. Yeah, we were. I've never been there before. I don't think you have. Yeah. So anyway, this guy said, called me a hater, called me pathetic because I had said in the tweet about that we were recording that this was not Stonewall's finest moment. I didn't.
Well, you said he said it was Claiborne of the East, and that's what got him going. You call him Claiborne of the East. And that's fine. Yeah. He kind of is, though, right? No,
to me, he is, but that's just my opinion. Like that's the whole, because you look at them both, and to me, the thing with Stonewall, I mean, yes, he had talent and all that. Is he as good as like Claiborne? I personally don't think he is. And the thing with Stonewall that I find interesting is the historical memory and how much the lost cause plays into him. Like if you look at somebody like, okay, here's our first Howard reference. Wow, I think we made it 6 minutes, maybe more, till I dropped OO there.
I was.
But all anybody ever seems to talk about with Howard is Chancellorsville. Nobody talks about, how good he is in the Western Theater. The stuff he does at Gettysburg is actually, he's decent there. He's a lot better than he was at Chancellorsville.
Well, the thing about it is
Stonewall fucks up, then everybody's like, no, you need to stop. You're a hater.
Right, and the ironic thing about it, okay, was we talked about Kernstown being his probably darkest moment as a general, right? but it ended up being a really strategic win for the Confederacy when you look at how it was left. And so when you listen to that podcast, which he obviously did not do, well, actually this was on Tuesday, so he couldn't have just dropped today.
And he's not going to listen to it. Let's face it. He's probably won't.
Well, he's probably too busy in his mother's basement,
worshiping Stonewall, apparently.
Yeah, well, but the thing is the podcast ended up being relatively positive of Jackson, because what was the lesson we talked about, Mary? Well, right? We talked about the fact that, yes, he was not ready for this. He got bad intel from Turner Ashby. He got pantsed to that stone wall, right? Garnett did the best he could to hold it, right? Fulkerson did the best he could to hold it. They had to pull out, and to save the Stonewall Brigade, Garnett did. Jackson's coming up with the 5th Virginia, and he's freaking out, and the guys are laughing at him saying, yeah, we're out of ammunition. And he goes and he says, well, use your bayonet. And they go, ha ha.
And they're like, fucker, no way.
But you know what, though? But what do we say, though? Because of that battle, it scared the living piss out of Lincoln.
It did.
Because of how audacious Jackson was.
Yep.
So he pulls Irvin McDowell from McClellan on the Peninsula, sends him west to fight him, and it costs him the Peninsula Campaign by doing that. And that was the thing we talked about. So you could sit there and say, even in his greatest failure, Jackson still won. So if he listens to the podcast, maybe he won't be as pathetic as he thinks you are. I'm glad he pointed out you were not me, by the way.
Yeah, that was, I was like, what the hell? But the other thing too, this is a lot like Kernstown, as small of a battle as it is, it's a lot like Chickamauga. And we mentioned this in the episode too. So Chickamauga is a Confederate win, but in the long game, it's a Union win, because the Union at the end of the day is holding Chattanooga. And that was really, they needed that city. They needed to keep that city. And plus, Bragg, he probably, who knows what would have happened if Bragg hadn't sat on his ass and did admin work and ignored reports from Forrest and all that.
Considering about his medical condition, I doubt he was sitting on his ass, Mary.
He had the same medical condition as Henry Halleck.
Hey, like I said, all his problems were behind him. But you know what, though? But there's a lot of, we've talked about that with a lot of battles, though. As much as Gettysburg is a big loss for the Confederacy, the campaign is a victory, because Lee did everything he wanted to do. He didn't just he didn't defeat the Union Army, but he stocked up his supplies. 57 miles of groceries and wagons leaving Virginia, and Meade let him get away. And so he fed his army for the rest of 63. So it's a loss, but it's also a win. I guess the whole thing as we study these battles are not a binary win-loss plus minus black-white thing. Every one of these you can take something out of. And what's interesting about Kernstown is, Jackson got kicked on the coin purse. There's no question, okay?
Yep.
But he was able to raise more troops. He was able to get more support, and he was able to, that second half of his game plan, to get troops away from McClellan into the valley.
Yeah.
So he kept James Shields in the valley.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Banks left and a lot of his guys, but he also got Irvin McDowell in the valley.
Yeah.
And that was their pipe. That was their Hail Mary. That was their pipe dream, and it worked.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing too that I was thinking about this morning when we were listening to it is this again is so Lincoln getting scared is again him kind of doing his meddling thing that he does early in the war, taking troops away from McClellan. And I see even more why McClellan was just at the end of his rope with him by the time Antietam rolled around. And again, I thought of Reynolds being offered command of the AOP. So Reynolds is probably watching these troops go to the valley to get Stonewall, thinking, well, we're not going to win this Peninsula Campaign now. Lincoln, I guess it would be over a year later, asked Reynolds to command the AOP, and Reynolds is like, nope. Because
that's the thing. There was an old football coach, Mary, used to coach around these parts named Bill Parcells. Okay.
Yeah.
And he had this phrase where he said, if you give someone an excuse, they're always going to take it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with McClellan on the Peninsula, is he had the excuse of McDowell. So as soon as he knew he was going to lose, he had a blame. He had a scapegoat. And that's a big part of it too. Hey, Jonathan, what's going on, man? Good to see you jump on.
John.
But I think, in the battle we talk about next week, Five Forks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know most people don't give a Five Forks about that battle, but this one's important too. But this one is more of a binary battle, because this is a clear loss for the Confederacy that ultimately was let the bottom fall out of the bag. So there's really no silver lining on that one. But this one there was. And Kernstown's a fun place. Anybody who's visited Kernstown, It's a great little battlefield. I mean, it's like someone's backyard, but it's a cool place to go. If you're looking for cannon and stuff like that, you ain't gonna find it. You're just gonna find a big hill. And a guy mowing the lawn was very nice to you, unless you in his garage and see his little stories he's building. So it's pretty cool.
I can't wait to go. I'm looking forward to going there.
Yeah, nice.
It's funny that the guy has his like the museum in his garage and stuff. Like, good for him. I probably would do something like that. You know.
So we and our friend Bill. So we're looking. We get there, and it's like you pull into the strip mall, and it's behind the strip mall.
Yeah.
And there's like a little neighborhood. You walk. There's a little gate, and you walk up this long road up to the Pritchard Hill, where the Pritchard house is. And we're just walking around. And this guy's like, "Can I help you guys?" I'm like, "No, just looking at the battlefield." He goes, "Oh, come on, I'll show you around." I'm like, "What the hell?" I thought I was going to be thrown in a van and taken off to, God knows where. And he's like, "Yeah, this is basically, it's owned by the Kernstown Trust, and I'm just the guy working here mowing the lawn. But I'll show you around. We're not really open because of COVID, but there's really no battlefield." So he has this garage, and inside the garage he has like a little bookstore. He's trying to build one of those little light things where you can hit the buttons and it shows you people where. And he has like a little store. He's selling little pins. He gave me a
That's
pin.
cool. Good for him.
But he was a good guy though. But he would be like, okay. And so he's like, yeah, well, spend all the time walking around you want. Just, he's like, there's not much to see here. I'm like, that's so cool to be here.
It's still cool to be where the battle is fought. Some comments here, Rod. Could he be any worse than at Chancellorsville? But I think I have shared my ancestral dismay with Howard. 74, as you might recall, Mary over Twitter, Howard. I think I remember that. Jay Price said, "I think the Lost Cause gravitates to Stonewall because he would have led them if he had survived the war. He didn't want to be alive if the South wasn't going to win. I also think that it's interesting that he said that and then died right before Gettysburg and Vicksburg."
See, I don't know how true, though people don't realize that Stonewall Jackson at one point threatened to resign. And he had to be talked back into taking his command again by the governor of Virginia.
He was such a fucking diva.
So I'm not sure if he survived. I don't think he was going to do the Edmund Ruffin thing and swallow the bullet. I think he would have been fine. I don't think he would have been like Jubal Early either and gone off to friggin' stupid Canada. I don't think he would have done that.
That's amazing. The ones that Pickett fled to Canada too, and so did Jeff Davis.
But I mean, I've always thought of Stonewall Jackson, right, is he has that Kurt Cobain syndrome, right, where he died, and because he died, he's always going to be aggressive. He's always going to, everything about him is always going to be positive for the most part in the minds. Now, I don't think Stonewall Jackson's the worst thing in the world. I think he's the most overrated general, just because I think people think that if he would have stayed alive, the Confederacy would have God knows what.
No, I agree.
The South would have won. Everyone would have got free cable, right? Everything would have worked out perfectly. That's how I think people think about it. But I think the martyr thing was big for him. But I think there are bigger generals. We've talked about this before. Ryan disagrees, but I think Albert Sidney Johnston would have been just as big. And I think Patrick Cleburne was just as important as he was. And I think if Patrick Cleburne had survived, if he was in the East and he was fighting with Lee. If it was Longstreet and Cleburne, I think it might have been a different story with people, how perception and history would have been with Patrick Cleburne versus Stonewall. No, I don't think Jackson's a disaster either. I don't think he's a complete dumpster fire, but I think he benefits by being killed, and I think he benefits by that national history looking back and forgetting a lot of things like Kernstown.
He does, and I think like a really good like kind of like parallel study would be Stonewall and Cleburne and how they are perceived in the Lost Cause myth, because Cleburne is such an obscure figure with that because of arming the slaves, and like, let's be honest, he didn't really understand like it was about independence for him. He said like slavery just really wasn't a thing in the grand scheme of things for why he was fighting. Again, it goes back to his culture of being Irish. Like the Irish who fight in the Civil War on both sides are so passionate about it. Like Cleburne's got brothers fighting in the North who are equally as passionate about the cause in the North as he is about it in the South. Mm-hmm. But I think Stonewall, just like, yes, his death plays into it. And to me, he is the most overrated general in the Civil War. Is he talented? Yes, he is. But I think when it comes down to ones that were better, definitely Cleburne, definitely Albert Sidney Johnston. There's a whole bunch of them that are, but he's an interesting study because of the Lost Cause myth and how he factors into it. And you like, the lines with Jackson between myth and what was real have become so blurred with this myth.
So here's a question for you there, old Fincheroo, okay? What question
Ooh.
do you think, what general do you think has more myth surrounding him, plus or minus, Jackson or Sherman?
Well, that's a really good question.
I know, isn't it? No, seriously. I mean,
I think I don't know. I think maybe in some ways they're both equal in that, because just their reputations, like I think actually no, Stonewall. I think I'm gonna go with Stonewall.
Stonewall to me is the poster boy for the Lost Cause.
He is. Yeah.
Oh, right. He is. Versus, I think Sherman is the poster boy of that whole Northern aggression thing. And that's part of it too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because by no means is anybody going to sit here and tell you Stonewall Jack is a fraud or whatever. But I think he gets a lot of, I mean, if anybody's been to Stone Mountain in Georgia, okay, you can see that mural that has Stonewall, has Jeff Davis, and has Robert E. Lee right on the side of the mountain. The old KKK headquarters, by the way, maybe Forrest, and we'll jump on Gordon.
Speaking of Forrest, Wayne just chimed in and said that he thinks that Forrest has the most Lost Cause mythology around him.
Yeah, I think so. The thing about Forrest though is, I mean, you could say what you will about him, but he was a hard fighting prick though. He was
a dick.
He was that, look, he's a bad guy in history, and all this shit about him is justified.
Yeah.
But he just Canada. Jen, why do you think I made fun of Canada? Give me a guess why I made fun of Canada. Okay.
Rod has a comment. Rod said he was a diva. Okay, I am in theory preparing for a board meeting listening to this, and I will say this discussion on Stonewall Jackson is so flipping enjoyable, laughing so hard on the diva remark that I can't see the keyboard.
Sorry to douse lemon juice all over it, but it's true.
Well, this is a guy who, when he had something personal against you, he would get rid of you. Like, who was it, Loring?
Loring.
Who he just didn't like. And then I feel so bad for Garnett in this. And then Stonewall needs a scapegoat, so he's like, Richard.
I mean, and then you have like Turner Ashby having the gall to try to bust his balls afterwards.
And Jackson is like, we're not doing that.
He's like, well, they said they were retreating, but I guess they were retreating after us, huh?
I'm satisfied.
Sitting there, probably stuck in some persimmon tree, probably, and looking down, saying, "I am satisfied." Like, get lost.
I wonder if Ashby woke up in the morning and asked him how he was, and Jackson's probably fine.
I'm fine. Really? You okay? Okay, all right. Seriously, can you not?
Basically being a diva. But yeah, and I joke around about Jeb Stuart being the diva of the Confederacy because of his hat and stuff. But when you look at some of this stuff with Stonewall, just how he was, and this is stuff that doesn't really get talked about in the myth of him, which they don't talk about the failures, they don't talk about the persimmon tree. No,
I mean, look, I mean, he if you're a Confederate historian, if you're into that type of thing, yes, he's someone who is going to be on your masthead, on your Mount Rushmore, because of what he represented, right?
Yeah.
And he has that dying early thing, which really inflates his reputation, right?
It does.
But he lived just long enough. Now, people talk about Rosie, our boy Rosecrans, we both like, right?
Yep.
And what is the one thing that people criticize Rosecrans on, right? Well, he only beat Bragg, right? That's all he did. But you know what though? Who did Jackson beat? He beat Banks.
Exactly.
Right?
And who beat Jackson? Kimball. And nobody ever mentions Kimball.
Right. But what I'm saying is that you can't sit here and say, well, Rosecrans sucks because he only went against the B team.
Yeah.
When Jackson, now listen, does it break my heart knowing a Waltham Mass guy, my hometown guy, didn't beat Stonewall Jackson? That'd been cool as hell. But the reality was, Grant would have crushed him. I mean, he did. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what at the end of the valley with that Fort Royal thing where Banks splits up his army to go around the mountains and
Yes.
feeds right into Jackson's hands and gets beaten detail, bang, bang, bang. And and that just goes to show it's not really audacious or over attacking, over creative. It's just taking what the team's giving you. If they're going to split your army on each side of a friggin' mountain range, take the first one and then go back because they can't cross. They can't reinforce each other.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be a Jomini scholar or Shinzu scholar to know that the way to beat Banks in that spot was to beat him in detail. And that's exactly what Jackson did in that Valley campaign. And I mean, he still did it. I mean, he could have peed down his leg and failed. He could have, lost confidence in Stonewall Jackson, Joe Hawker, but he did. But he was successful, and he did a good job with that. But there's definitely an overrated aspect to it all. But whatever. But Kernstown was fun though.
Oh yeah. Snyder says, how much of Stonewall's notoriety comes from his name? Through stories or just having a cool nickname that stands out among generals? I think too the nickname is something that clearly it had traveled out to the the Western theater, because you have Claiborne being called the Stonewall of the West. So he's already establishing this reputation before he's even gone. But then if you look in the Western theater though, Claiborne has his own reputation where even after his death, his men are still called Claiborne's Division, and they still carry that flag. And every time the Union troops see that flag, they get scared.
You and those damn half moons.
Yep. Well, that's what's awesome about Claiborne's Division,
funny,
that he's got like my two favorite generals both have a moon associated with them, which is cool.
But no, I think but I think a lot of that applies with these guys. Now, I'm going to give Nathan Banks the victory at Kernstown just for my hometown guy. I know he left the day of the battle, wasn't there, but you know what though? Screw it.
And some people are saying that Rod said that was a really great question. Really, you're going to give Banks I would put it to Kimball.
Look, I'm just reaching at straws at this point. Kimball's obviously the guy. He was.
Yeah.
And I don't think Banks' name appears anywhere in that Kernstown area. But it would have been nice to sit there and go, oh yeah, guy from my hometown beats Stonewall. But it's interesting to see how these guys go. But a lot of divisions kept their names after their guys got killed though, right? It wasn't just Claiborne.
Exactly.
So I don't want to sink your battleship here or anything. But that's true though.
Well, I know, but just that keeping the name and just the flag, that.
It's
that sparked
cool,
fear. Hey, Jim, that's Stonewall Diva bitch Jackson. Do you now drop to your knees and pray I don't blow your head off?
Well, the thing about it though is even the nickname Stonewall is debated whether or not it's a positive or not, right?
I know, because Bernard B might have been like.
Well, Bernard B, they're all retreating, and he rallied on the side of the slope by that Henry Hill house in Manassas. But there are some people, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there are some people who think that B's comments about Jackson standing like a stone wall aren't standing strong. Some people think they meant he was doing nothing, just standing around. Like you stand by the water cooler over there at the old DQ, right?
Yep, and do nothing. Jackson was probably standing with his hand on his hip like a diva bitch.
Mary standing like a stone wall. Can you get the drive-through? But seriously, but I mean, I'm not sure about that. That's just perception. But even that's debated whether or not that nickname. I mean, I know a lot of fat guys they call Slim, so it doesn't mean it's a nickname, a positive nickname. It's just the way it is.
I'm just
right.
There's comments about Jackson being a diva, and Jay Price said you need to do a Lost Cause poster boy Jackson. But I'm just picturing him. I'm just picturing B looking over at him, and Jackson standing there like a diva. Hand on his
he
hip.
probably did, but I think the reality was the nickname was because he was standing strong. I'm sure that it is true, but there are people who think that's not the case, so we'll never know, but that's just B ain't gonna be talking anytime soon,
no, because he got cut down soon after that. But
he wouldn't have made it today anyway.
You know what I just remembered about oh shit. What I just remembered about Jackson is that I've mentioned this video game a few times, Bioshock Infinite, which is Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite are my two favorite video games. Love them. But Bioshock Infinite has a lot of Civil War references in it. That's the one where there was that Fraternal Order of the Ravens, and I thought I was walking into some kind of Grant worshipping society, and they've got this fucking statue to John Wilkes Booth, and I turned my character to turn him to the right, or to the left to look into a bar. What is a bar? And there's Lincoln with devil horns. So I was like, holy
Oh,
shit, what if I
speaking of
stumbled upon
Mary Sarah, I would appreciate that one, by the
Team
way.
Mary? So then, but in all these different, like in this place called, it's called Columbia. And oddly enough, Columbia burns at one point. There's all these pictures of Stonewall Jackson. And he's like kind of one of their patron saints in this game.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Rod, thanks for jumping on, man. Enjoy that meeting, but definitely appreciate you jumping on. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. Jay Price had to go too, unfortunately.
Where is she running to? She's always in such a hurry.
I know. Scott actually just said he was in Ringgold yesterday, and they have Claiborne's flag. It's up next to the American flag. I actually kind of want to I want to start collecting flags.
I know a guy. See the flag? Who collects flags?
I collect.
Yeah, we know you collect.
There he is.
Which one is that again?
This is Sherman.
You know, I'm going to tell you right now, the richest guy in Goderich is your therapist. I'll tell you that right now. That guy's got a house filled with gold. I'm telling you.
Oh, God.
Many leather books and furniture made of rich mahogany.
Don't knock
or where the hell that is.
Plush animals.
Oh.
But just seeing if there's a.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, Irishburg has flags. Thanks, Tony. I have a lot of good flags.
Rod just said this was
fun collecting flags.
Rod said this was the Civil War discussion that he needed. Smaller battle sites need this energy. We'll possibly be visiting Freeman's Ford on survey of the terrain with a group of our 74th Pennsylvania infantry descendants. This type of discussion is really delightful. That's good. We do enjoy coming on here and doing this in the morning.
Well, what I love, in all honesty, man, look, we love our Gettysburg and all that stuff, right? But I love these small battles.
Oh,
I
do
Balls
too.
Bluffs, Kernstown, Pea Ridge, Bentonville, and not to be insulting, calling them little battles like freaking Ken Burns, the fucking thing. But you know what? But they really tell the story. And if you really want to understand why McClellan failed in the Peninsula campaign, you've got to study Kernstown.
You do. It helps to understand the Civil War so much better if you're not putting these like battles separately and looking at them separately. You know, like Gettysburg is way up here, and we would never try to put Gettysburg down or anything else above it or whatever, but all battles are important. So what we're trying to do is get the other battles up here, and you see the domino effect they have. You know, like Ball's Bluff is one that, Sherman's mentioning it in his memoirs regarding the taking of Fort McAllister, saying we don't need another Ball's Bluff on our hands here. We've got to make sure that we've got, everything in place, because the last thing he wants is to go towards the Joint Committee for Conduct of War. And, Meade's got to go before them after Gettysburg, doesn't he? He's got to go talk to them.
Well, you look at Ball's Bluff and you look at like the death of Edward Baker, right?
Yeah.
And how it affects Lincoln. They're on the human level. We talked about Lincoln walking back from the War Department, whittling, walking back to the White House. I don't know where the hell that came from, by the way.
No, either.
It's whittling.
Some dark recess of your brain.
But even Ellsworth, Albert Ellsworth, another Lincoln guy who got killed at the beginning.
Yep.
We need someone to come on here from Alexandria, Virginia. I know we have Arlington, but Alexandria, would be fun. Do you know they were in the Confederacy for 24 hours? That's all they were, and they act like they've been there entire time.
Yeah.
They seceded, and the Union quickly took it. But they hold that 24 hours to be the most important 24 hours in their history in Alexandria. So that's like,
like we were Confederate, we were part of it.
One day.
The one. I'm gonna give a quick
Battle of Shrewd Farm is a big one, Mary. Elsie's right about that one.
Quick shout out to Ben. The three of us have like a chat going, and he sent us a picture, Lego figures of colorized of Sherman and Howard, and he'd taken the arm off the one Lego picture, that was hilarious.
Ben has his good days and his bad days, obviously. Between him and his Legos and you with your stuffed animals, I'm starting to think I've never felt so better about myself, actually, as a matter of fact. Whatever.
Don't knock until you try it, Weeks.
Well, there was a really good YouTube video going on that somebody brought up. It was a Lego battle. I think it was Manassas. that someone did. You can watch it and learn them. Like, I mean, you can spend a lot of time on your hands with that.
Well, there's actually, I saw it one time. There's a book about the American Revolution that is all Legos. It's really, really cool.
Alex, so your sister's moving to Alexandria. It's
That's
a cool
cool.
little place. They got a really good Buffalo Wild Wings alley. That's about the best thing about it. It's right there in Washington, right on the other side of the river. There's not much to it, but it's a cool little place. If you get a chance, if you're in that area, you go to a place called Tyson's Corner, which is a little bit west, and there's a bunch of good bars and restaurants, alley. So make sure you hit that Tyson's Corner.
Last time I was in Alexandria, I think I was 10 years old, so I was not drinking. Well, no.
Oh, that started when you were 11. I know. You just missed by a year.
Well, Canada. Elsie, hey Elsie, he says he loves Perryville. That's probably another battle we should.
Perryville's a good one. I mean, when we talk about Vicksburg, we'll talk a lot about, we'll talk like Island Number 10, and we'll talk about, Port Hudson. We'll talk about all, but that'll be probably another threesome of an episode when we do Vicksburg.
Ooh.
Right? Okay, here you go. But I mean, because there's so much to talk about Vicksburg. Vicksburg, we got to go on and on about.
Yeah.
I suppose we got to do something Gettysburg related too around that time of year. But I think
the other one I want to do too is the battle in Richmond, Kentucky.
Okay.
That's when I wanted. That's where Claiborne was wounded.
Oh, well, there you go.
Sorry.
I want to do an episode of Oliver Otis Howard's Birthplace. Just talk about the birthplace. We'll just talk about his birth in that manger with the light shining down on the North Star and those three wise men standing over him.
Someone in the round table the other night, it might have been Snyder, he typed our Lord and Savior Oliver Otis Howard.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It's amazing to see this. Shout out to Lampoon right now. All the Howard stuff that's going on there now.
Yeah, props to those people who are on the Lampoon, by the way, who are
obviously Team OO and 11th Corps junkies like we are.
I saw a picture on the Lampoon recently of Fremantle with the Queen and a very sketchy looking girl in that picture.
I saw that too. That chick was sketchy looking.
Oh, worst.
Scary even.
But there's a bunch of ones like that. But no, there's a bunch of good ones though, and that whole area, there's a whole bunch of good places. But Alexander's a cool little place. That's a nice. That whole area. I mean, the traffic is absolutely freaking god awful. But that Alexandria, Arlington, that whole area. If you leave in Washington D.C. going to Gettysburg, you usually cross the Potomac and go through that sort of area. But it's nice. You can go see Ball's Bluff if you're in that area. It's not too far away from Alexandria.
Yeah, I would love to go back to Alexandria. That's where Mercy Street was set. It's a good show. Really
that show never should have ended.
I know. There's a lot of things that should never have ended. Jonathan just posted the picture the link for the YouTube video.
Your WAPO was legendary. Well, I appreciate that. God. It's amazing what he finds himself getting himself into. He's the Henry Harrison,
Yeah, the Harrison was good too. And Howard Hump Day.
Wow, yeah, that's another one too. Manassas is close. That's right up the street there. There's a lot of goods. That area of Virginia, the best one though, you go to Fredericksburg, you can hit all of them. You can hit not only Chancellorsville, Spotsylvania, that whole area. Appomattox too far, but you can also do the John Wilkes Booth death site, which is probably about an hour from Fredericksburg. That's
on my bucket list. Is to
that one you have. That one's a tough one to find though, Mary, because it's on the median of a highway. But what people don't realize is the median, the sign, who our friend Dave Taylor wrote the verbiage on, by the way, is on the wrong side of the street. So if you really want to see it, you have to park next to the sign, and it's about 200 yards up the road across the street. There's a path, and you walk down it, and you can find it. And the way you find it is there's a pipe sticking out of the ground, and that's the site of where the chimney was allegedly.
Wow.
But you're not supposed to go there because it's the site of Camp AP Hill, and you're on Mill. And there's a sign. The sign used to say no relic hunting, but now it says no entrance. But I mean, if you're there, what do you not?
Well, there's not a lot. There's a lot of stuff you're not supposed to do with battlefields and shit like that. But I mean,
no. But I mean, you can. There's like one of those low hanging little chains you step over, and you go about 30 yards down this path, and there's nothing to see. There's no monuments or anything like that really to see. But the site of the the actual tobacco barn where he was killed is probably right on the actual highway, realistically. So
Wow,
it's
that's
too bad.
crazy.
In the Garrett farm, it's, I think, stood until the 1930s till it finally
Mhm.
collapsed. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting area. But that whole area, there's so much stuff to see in that area. There's so much stuff.
Oh yeah, anytime I've been to DC, I've absolutely loved it and felt like I could have spent, like another week there
Mhm.
just exploring. Same with Gettysburg. Like I would love to go spend just a week there and kind of really, really immerse myself.
Hey, Lisa, what's
But
going on? Hey, your husband's on, so you better behave yourself.
hey
Better
Lisa,
watch
it's
you.
good to see you on here.
Better watch what you say. Um,
But Jim's a
uh,
treehouse guy, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, Allie, if you get in trouble, you definitely say that we sent you. No, that'll
Yep.
get you an extra night in jail. So
It was Mary
congratulations.
and Darren.
Yeah. No, you understand. They told me. Oh yeah.
They told me.
But I
But
lost my
blame the
sunglasses
Canadian,
there.
and I will
Actually,
say I'm sorry.
I lost a good pair of Ray-Bans there.
That sucks.
I laid down on the spot where he died, and Bill took a picture. I took the sunglasses
Yeah.
off. I think I took them off in the picture, but I didn't have them after that. I must have left them there. So I sacrificed my Ray-Bans to the ghost of John Wilkes Booth. But I laid down right in the very spot he died, where I think he was. The estimate area was pretty close. But so if you see the ghost of John Wilkes Booth and he has Ray-Bans on, this guy.
That is a Photoshop that needs to happen. The other thing I was just thinking with Ray-Bans is the Stonewall Jackson poster for the Lost Cause needs to have him wearing Ray-Bans.
Oh yeah, those are always fun
I
to do.
I don't know why.
I saw a picture of Howard wearing Ray-Bans in Chin's Ridge recently.
Chin Ridge.
Yeah. As a matter of fact.
I love
the chin looked familiar, actually. I thought,
the pictures you've done of OO with the sunglasses on, he just looks so much like he doesn't give a shit about anything. Like people can bash him all they want, but he's like, I'm doing my own thing.
The best one is the OO ones when I take the beard off of him.
Oh, he is a scary man.
Like that Three Stooges one I did last week. You see
Oh
that
my
one?
God. It was funny. I was trying to find a picture of OO from his West Point days, or maybe when he was at Bowdoin, and I couldn't because I wanted to see what he looked like without the beard, because I've only ever seen him with the beard. And then Heckman posted a photo of him, and he tagged me in it so I would see it on Facebook, just on his tattooed historian page, and it was Howard around the time of West Point. He's got facial hair, and I'm like, is this man born with facial hair?
A beard, definitely. Speaking of the beard, eyes up here. Mary, talk about that. But the thing about that day, though, in all seriousness, was we went to, this was a couple falls ago. I went down to Washington D.C. with some friends to watch the Patriots play the Redskins, or they were still the Redskins back then. So we decided, I was insisting. I go, listen, we need to do a couple things. I need to do the John Wilkes Booth Escape Tour.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, come on. I'm like, yeah. I will have, there might be beer in the car. Okay, fine. So we ended up driving from we went to Surratt's Tavern, okay, and then we went to the Mud House, and then we went to the Pine Thicket. And the funny part about it was I brought a newspaper so we lay in the woods. I had the newspaper like Booth would have, and then we went from there, and we ended up going all the way to, Port Tobacco, and then across the Potomac. But that was fun, though. That was a good day. It took like the whole afternoon, though, and the people I was with were very nonplussed with the idea of, a friend of mine made a Facebook post, a photo album called "The Hostages on the Nerd Tour."
Jeez,
that's what they called it.
That's like when I went to DC when I was 16 with my history class. I was the only one to like wander off, and it was to go behind where the alley is at Forts Theater. And my teacher was like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I'm going to see where Booth snuck into the theater." And get back here,
Nicholas. I don't know if Darren grew his beard to look like no. Do I look like with the beard? I don't think so. But I've had this for a while. I grew it out though. I grew it out because I just sick of freaking dealing with it. But
so someone here, this is hilarious. I think it was, I'm trying to find it now. It was Paul who mentioned that Stonewall was wearing his sunglasses at night. That's why they didn't recognize him. So of course I started thinking of the Corey Hart song, "Sunglasses at Night." Yeah, and
the that song
I
sounds
wear
a
my
lot like
sunglasses at night so I don't get shot.
I wear my sun.
So
that
I
little
can get
chorus, shot. Mary, sounds a lot like do 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 do.
Fuck. do that.
It's so funny. It's like that song gets you freaking out. But seriously though, it's interesting to go. That area is a great area though.
Yeah.
But anyway, about Kernstown.
I'm never going to listen to that sunglasses song the same ever again. I'm going to think of the line, I wear my sunglasses at night so I can get shot.
Oh, we've totally bastardized the "Call Me Maybe" song now. By the way,
I know.
you know how long it took for Mary to play the violin to just right for that to take. You did good though. I will say you played very, very well. You know.
I think when we talk about Chancellorsville, we've got one of our memes already.
Oh God, yeah.
Stonewall sunglasses at night.
I know a guy who could probably make that happen. So it's okay. We'll figure that out. You know. But no, I think. But I think going back to Stonewall though it's an interesting aspect of that whole thing, because this was the very beginning of the Valley campaign, right?
Yeah.
And you think about how they only got to Kernstown because of Johnston pulling out of Manassas, right, and screwing up that entire Urbana plan that McClellan wanted, right?
Yep.
So it's all these moving parts, and so we've said this a million times, but A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D, and then E is the big one. But E doesn't happen unless these little ones happen.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what I think, that's one thing I love about doing this podcast, is I'm seeing that more and more, how these moving parts are all connected, and you really can't elevate one battle above another, because Gettysburg wouldn't have happened if certain things hadn't happened before it. Just like, McClellan could very well have been thinking, and I said this in the podcast, he's sitting in Antietam because of what Lincoln did to him with pulling those troops from the peninsula. And you see, the one thing doing Kernstown really made me realize even more was just how much what Lincoln did was detrimental to what McClellan was trying to accomplish. And I know I keep going back to the Reynolds thing, but I understand more and more why Reynolds was like, fuck that, to banning the AOP, because he saw what had happened firsthand. And Reynolds is a McClellan guy. I don't think he was happy to see him go and have Burnside in charge, but then who would be? What?
Nothing.
Jeez.
It all goes back to apparently. It's true though.
It is. 6 Degrees of Oliver Otis Howard.
Oh, that's a game we could play. That'll be the next trivia game. Next time we get around doing a round table, we should do the 6 Degrees of Oliver Otis Howard.
That
Tilly
was great.
Pierce.
Tilly Pierce.
Tilly Pierce hooked up with the entire 11th Corps. 11th Corps was Oliver Otis Howard. There we go. But you know what though? But I know going off track with this stuff, but I think we need to do the trivia thing once a quarter on these round tables.
It was fun.
I know it was a lot of work for you to, because of you had to make I did the questions, you did the visuals, I know it was hard because God knows you were bitching about it, but I think you were.
I know I was a little bit, but I'm like that the first time I do something, because I wanted it to be perfect, because I'm a fucking perfectionist. But now that I've done it, could you not?
You can almost see you carrying that cross when you're talking like that, Mary.
I am.
No, but you did a lot of it was good, but that was fun. But I think I think what we'll do, and this is kind of off the cuff. I don't really talk, but maybe we have. I don't talk about some.
Yeah, no, we've talked about doing.
But I think what we should probably do is do that quarterly, right? Yeah. And just give away stuff, because that was a good time. That was fun. I think it played out well. I think everyone really participated. I don't think the questions are too easy or too hard. They were kind of in the middle, which is kind of what I was kind of hoping to do.
No, I enjoyed it, and I deliberately didn't like. Me not having Howard as an answer was by design, because like people are gonna like think that this is what all my questions are gonna be around. But like it was challenging for me to come up with questions, and now that I've done it once, like I think it'll be easier. But one of the questions hit me in the research for Kernstown, Kimball, having him like he was in the Atlanta campaign. I'm like, okay, that's one of my questions right there.
But I thought the Kernstown episode was a fun one to record, though. I just thought there was a lot of interesting folks. And when we get to next week, when we talk about Five Forks, that's a
Yeah.
really good one because there's so, these guys like Pegram we could talk about. Obviously, Sam Wiley Crawford is a popular one with this one. Pickett, but that's a good one though because like I said earlier in this live thing, that one is a zero-sum game. This one was a complete loss, and it led to the end, right? But it was it's such a fun battle to talk about, defending that South Side Railroad and just how bad Pickett screwed that up.
Well,
And then,
it's such a shit show, right? Like he fucks off to go to a fucking shad bake.
but you know what? That's a little bit overrated, only because he's not the first guy. I mean, Richard Anderson at Gettysburg was at a Midori party on day 2 of Gettysburg. On it, he was. So when guys like Ambrose Wright and Cadmus Wilcox and Posey and those guys were attacking on day 2 of Gettysburg, he was literally at a picnic, literally 2 miles behind, right? And he knew, but the difference was he knew the battle was going on. It wasn't like Pickett, who was doing the hell he was freaking doing. Anderson did, right? And it's funny because but you don't hear about that because he's not Pickett, right? He's also not in Virginia either, But Ambrose Wright never forgot him, never forgave him for that, never did, But that's what the biggest mistake Pickett made was not clearly putting someone in charge.
Well, he sort of
while
did.
He was gone.
I was such an idiot.
Well, he sort of did, but he didn't sit there and say, "Okay, if this happens, this is what we're gonna." I'll be back in 2 hours. I'm going to get my shad on.
Shad.
Okay. So there was questions about leadership at the time, right? I don't know if Anderson assumed because he had good generals and they were going to do the thing, but that was the mistake he made, though. That's what, and you know what though, Anderson Pickett's too good of a general for that. That surprised me. He should have clearly put someone in charge. But then there's so many parallels though. Like Pegram, we'll talk about this when we record. But Pegram's a guy who was at the John Brown's raid and was present when Brown got executed.
Yeah.
Right. And he talked a lot about how those militias being raised in Virginia from that was the beginning of the Confederate Army. That's where that comes from.
Yeah.
He gets killed, not to spoil the surprise, he gets killed at Five Forks, right? And so he's kind of like, he was the very beginning and died at almost the very, very end. So he's a kind of one who crosses over.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that with this one.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about this next week from the 5 seconds we talk about the podcast on this live. But I think but I think it's a good study though. I think it'd be fun to talk about that. So maybe you could do your homework and you could participate. You felt so bad about this current style. You felt,
I know I did. I did because I was such a fucking zombie from the time change.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, God.
Hey, Paul, thanks for dropping by, man.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Let's talk to you.
Now I lost. Oh, the one thing I've been doing a little bit of reading about Five Forks, and I was listening to one video on YouTube. Meade never gets mentioned. This is when Meade has kind of like in the background, and it's all about Grant. And I want to find out what Meade's role was.
You know who else was? You know who else was at Five Forks? Joshua
Chamberlain.
He was there. There's a lot of Gettysburg people at this one.
Oh yeah,
it's the Fifth Corps. The Fifth Corps is who was there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys with that. So we'll have fun talking about that one. That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the mood is improved next Tuesday, Mary.
Well, there's not going to be a time change to
touch and go. Those very, very, very hazardous moments last Tuesday.
God, editing that, I was like, who is this person that's recording with Derek? It doesn't sound like me.
Something got you going that day. I forget what the hell it was at the beginning.
It was just the time. I was not realizing how exhausted the time change had made me, and
You still blame that time change, huh? Okay.
I will. That's my cross to bear.
Blaming Benjamin Franklin again, huh? Okay, for this whole daylight saving stuff. So no, but I think it's good though to study this because what will be interesting about Five Forks is it really shows. I mean, you have one train line out. That was the last supply line, right? Yeah. And I'm surprised it took so long for the Union to get that one, to be honest. They had surrounded Petersburg and left that South Side Railroad out. That was the one. these guys escaped on. But I think Five Forks is a fun one to study. I mean, it's a 2-hour battle. It's like the Gilligan's Island 2-hour tour. You know, it's a quick little ride.
Where Gouverneur and Phil have their little battle?
Yeah. Well, the problem is even Sheridan gets lost on this one. Is they're supposed to go this way, they go this way, but this is the one where, you know, Sheridan, he's like the king of the Shenandoah, you know, and he's going to be coming down, and he's going to go ahead and ultimately blame Warren, who's you know, is running that corps, and that's going to be the end of Warren, and Warren never forgave him for that.
I feel so bad. So that's another far-reaching thing we'll probably talk about. I feel so bad for Warren. I mean, Warren was an asshole. Like, he was an arrogant prick, but my God, he didn't deserve the treatment he got.
Warren dies. He's buried in Newport Frail Island. Okay, but he's buried in his civilian uniform because he refuses to be buried in a military uniform because he's still that mad. How pissed you got to be?
I mean, I get the guy had an ego the size of Texas, but like, I can't imagine what that was like, having Sheridan and Warren together. Like, when Grant brought Sheridan east with him, the two of, like, Sheridan and Warren, there's two of the biggest egos in the army, the Union Army, right there.
Oh, big time they were.
And then they had that thing where, like, you know, Sheridan wants to go after Jeb Stuart, and Meade is like, dude, no, not now. So then Phil's like, fine, I'm gonna go talk to Dad. He goes to Grant.
Fine. How are you, Phil? Okay.
What's wrong? I'm not allowed to go after Jeb.
Can you do me a favor when you attack Pickett? Can you not? Very hazardous. Very hazardous.
I fully admit that. Yes, I sometimes do talk that way.
Sometimes the B is capitalized. Anyways,
speaking of B, remember when you got attacked by one?
Why do you say the things you do? Why? But this is fun. But this is one we talk about how a lot of these battles are setting up the bigger battles. This is one that the bigger battles set up the smaller one. This is kind of like that tremble after the earthquake. Yeah. But it's important though, because once that South Side Railroad fell, that's it, done. You know, Lee at that point was screwed.
Yeah.
You know. But that's why you study this stuff though. And that, you know,
but that's why I like breaking down the camp. I like breaking down the campaigns, you know, kind of starting small. And then eventually we'll do an episode about, you know, the Valley campaign. We'll do a whole episode just looking at the Carolinas from start to finish, instead of, you know, we've already broken it down. We still have another episode to do about the Carolinas because that's our first threesome.
Hell.
Snyder too soon, Mayor B Ridge. #B Ridge.
Yeah, very creative. Very creative on your part, by the way. Very creative. Look at you, huh? Whatever. But I think it's always important to study. I love these smaller battles. You know what I mean? I said before, all battles matter in this stuff. Yeah. But how can you truly understand? In all seriousness, how could you how could you truly appreciate 360 degrees the Battle of Antietam without knowing the peninsula in Manassas? And you can't understand those without Kernstown.
And South Mountain too. Like South Mountain's one that gets neglected too.
They all play a part of it. They all do. But this, you know, you look at the fact that this whole thing was going on. Abraham Lincoln was extremely concerned about protecting Washington. That was his thing, right?
Yeah.
And he wanted to make sure that was the number one goal. And he had to kind of play two masters here, because he knew he had to give a lot of troops to McClellan to take Richmond. And this is the thing that gets with McClellan, by the way, Mary, was it took him how long to try to take Richmond, and he couldn't do it? 3 months, right?
Yep.
It took Grant 9 months to finally take it. So and this is the end when it was a freaking dumpster fire. This is when it was still strong at the beginning. So how do you blame McClellan, who lost all those troops because of Jackson, because Lincoln was in his head? Now, they had tons of troops guarding Washington anyway.
Yep.
So I don't think Jackson's 3,000 guys, even when he, you know, even when he had more reinforcements that would eventually come for him, weren't going to take it.
Mhm.
But he was in Lincoln's head the same way that Sherman was in so many Confederates' heads.
Oh, exactly.
Guys like Leonidas Polk,
Yeah.
guys like Joseph Johnston.
Yeah.
They were all, and it was all psychological. And that's what's so funny about this. And that's why it's great to study these people as people.
Exactly. Because there's
right?
not just exactly, like the human aspect of it and what they're thinking. You know, it's like people think that like Sherman might have been the first one to get in somebody's head like that, but no, Jackson is clearly in Lincoln's head, like thinking, what is this guy going to do? I don't know. But then he goes and he takes those troops from McClellan. And I mean, McClellan is he's no like, he's not hugely, I don't know how to describe McClellan. I like him more than I once did.
He's look, McClellan is what he is. He's loves himself some George McClellan. Okay. But I also think when you look at the actual what happened at the Peninsula, and what happened at Antietam, the post Antietam, he gets unfairly blamed for, because he wanted to chase Lee down, but he didn't have the supplies. No. They were going into the winter. What's he going to go into Virginia and suddenly it's wintertime and you have no supplies? Yeah. And Lincoln was slow to get him their supplies. And even guys like Meade commented on that afterwards. Like, we've been waiting for these. I was just thinking about Meade. Right?
I was just thinking about Meade writing to his wife and saying that.
You cannot blame McClellan for chasing down Lee after Antietam. It's just historically not true. It's just not. Now, if you want to say it, knock yourself freaking out. But there's a reason with that. But the problem with McClellan is he's like Longstreet. There's a pattern with him. He bitches. He bitches. Oh, yeah. He bitches, right? And the people who complain the most, Canadians notwithstanding, tend to the ones who get blamed for a lot of this stuff, especially with this stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's but yeah, like you look at this, and McClellan is in Antietam probably because of what has happened with Kernstown and the whole Valley campaign, that he can't do what he needs to do because he really, make fun of him for needing more troops. He probably did need more troops.
He probably did. But if you're if you're McClellan, and you have a shootout hockey victory over in Antietam, that's kind of what it was. It wasn't like a win. It was a tie, but you won on the shootout.
It was just enough that Lincoln was able to do his emancipation.
Oh, see you later, Laurie. Thanks for jumping on. But he did what he had to do. But history shows McClellan, and a lot of it because he wrote that really long thesis bashing Lincoln, and he ran for president against him. He did a lot of stuff, and that's what gets him, right? Yeah. And we're not going to sit here and tell you he's some friggin' great thing, because he's not. But you cannot blame him for post Antietam. You simply can't.
You can't let him shoulder all that blame, because there is shit going on with the administration that is holding things up. And how I saw that was when we did our episode about McClellan versus Lincoln, which was I love.
People don't realize. Do you realize? But the condition of the Army of the Potomac after Second Manassas, after Pope screwed the whole thing up, he was able to. Now you lose. Okay, you're on a trail of bad losses now, right? Second Manassas, you get completely owned, right?
Yep.
Now you're switching. Now you put McClellan back in charge again. Now you got Lee going into Maryland, and you got to go ahead and you got to chase him down, and you actually beat him, push him back. Do you know how hard that must have been to rally that army to beat Lee at Antietam?
Yeah.
And then he gets blamed for not chasing him afterwards. That's the problem I have. I'm no gigantic fan of McClellan, but I always thought that was so unfair.
I see it. Like, I used to blame McClellan for that, and then again do the research and look into this and kind of read between the lines, and you have to pull other aspects in that happened in the Civil War. That's what I had to do to make myself realize that. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, Meade is writing his wife and saying they're short on supplies. There's more to this, that Lincoln is meddling. But then I looked ahead to, again, Reynolds being offered command of the AOP and him saying to Lincoln, are you going to fuck around and meddle? Oh, I'm not Lincoln's like, I'm not relinquishing control. And Reynolds is basically, he nopes the fuck away from that. But then he does say, he's like, oh, by the way, Meade probably would make a really good commander.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, and
you
but
know,
that's the thing that you have to look at in this is what patterns are there. And even Sherman writes his wife in 1864 before he's about to start the March to the Sea, and he says to her, you know, McClellan's a bastard, but my God, I stood behind him when Lincoln was doing his shit to him. Like even Sherman saw what was like Sherman saw that the administration was meddling, and Sherman is basically saying, "I'm glad I'm out in the Western Theater because they don't do that shit out here."
they did. And Mike mentions wasn't McClellan too quick to accept the bogus numbers of Confederate soldiers? But you know what though? He had no choice because those numbers are coming from Stance and from Halleck. He had no choice but to accept the numbers.
Yeah,
If
and
they're telling,
wasn't what's his face, the Pinkerton, giving him numbers too, right?
yeah, they were all over the place. If you're McClellan, now look, he definitely inflated the stuff,
He
but
did.
you're only, and you know, he obviously had tough times places like Yorktown with the numbers. He definitely got played, but he was getting those numbers from Washington, and if you're relying on those numbers to be true, so you're making your battle plans based on information provided to you from intelligence from Washington. So how could you blame him for overinflating the numbers when he was given the numbers too? You know, so it's I don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah, it's I think McClellan, like, I mean, he's not my favorite, but don't put like he's to blame, but blame rests elsewhere. You can't make him shoulder everything, you know, and I
You know
think
what though?
he gets a bad rap in
I can't
history
really do this whole thing
for
about McClellan. Here we go with McClellan again. But I think at the same time though, he was his worst enemy because
he
he
was.
wouldn't
Yeah,
stop
he's
whining
arrogant.
about it. He just, I mean, he could have been like George Thomas. He could have been a guy like that where go under the radar. But that's not who he was. He was a guy who clearly, we mentioned before about the whole Grant syndrome, right? With you
Yeah.
know when you finish the musical chairs.
Don't.
Doot, doot. but he was a guy who clearly saw this as his launching pod for the future. There's no doubt.
He did.
I, you know, I don't want to say I feel bad for McClellan because he's his own worst enemy. But there's a fact of the matter is what they were. You know.
Yep. David
But
just joined us. He's at Stones River. Sorry, I just had
oh, speaking of Rosecrans, here we
awesome.
go. But even Jonathan's right. Even there were times those numbers weren't wrong. But it's not like it is today. And the biggest problem people have, I think, is people look at our 21st century knowledge and
Yep.
assume they had that 19th century knowledge, right? You know, I remember our friend Gary was on one of those history shows, right?
Yep.
Edelman from ABT. And he said this Battle of Gettysburg could have been won with two sets of walkie-talkies. That's all you needed.
Yep.
That's all you needed. It's the communication was so bad and you didn't know what. It was
Exactly. And you don't have you also don't people don't look at the psychological side to what these men are going through in these battles. The reason that Meade is my favorite Eastern Theater commander is we are looking at a guy that
keeping track of who's your favorite one.
Meade is favorite Eastern, Thomas is Western, and OO is overall. And
where does Sherman fall into this?
He's in there.
He was your binky for the longest time.
He was. Well, now it's OO.
Okay, whatever.
I'm allowed to be mysterious.
You were a Packer fan. You were also a Brown fan. Now
Not
you're
anymore.
a Patriot fan. So it's all kind of good. I see what's going on with you. Your commitments to these things here, Mary.
Okay.
You know, pretty soon you'll be dumping those Indians. I don't know how I don't think they are the Indians anymore. Whatever they
Sox
are.
have been my second team for a while. My dad loves the Boston Red Sox.
Okay, well, don't get you. You'll be all over the Red Sox soon. As soon as they learn to play baseball.
Yeah,
again.
Lisa brings up a good point. Always remember the human element in these battles.
Yeah.
And basically, like, and that's the thing is you don't like you look at somebody like Meade who has had command of the AOP for 72 hours, and he's having to fight a battle. He's having to think on his feet, and like he's commanding an army that they're not yet. They haven't been together long enough to say that it's Meade's army. It is still Hooker's army, the Potomac. But then you have to go back and look at the changes that Hooker made after Fredericksburg. So I always say that Meade won Gettysburg with Hooker's army, the Potomac. Hooker
did.
Yeah, Hooker doesn't get enough credit for that. But the other thing too is Meade is like, so then he has 3 days of literally no sleep. And then Lincoln writes in that letter where he basically was like, why the fuck didn't you pursue? Luckily doesn't send it, because I think Lincoln finally has his come to moment, like, oh my God, I need to recognize what these guys are going through. But the other human element to look at too, and we've mentioned this before, is Rosecrans at Chickamauga, when he had a breakdown.
Well, he
And
clearly did.
because you look back at
you
him at
can't
Tullahoe
blame
and so
him. I
on,
mean,
so right.
Jesus, if he's got, I mean, can you imagine
Yeah.
seeing one of your closest friends getting his head taken clean
Yeah.
off?
And that, and two, the other person that doesn't get any blame in what happened with the breakthrough is Garfield. I mean, I love Garfield, but he was writing orders as well for
Mhm.
Rosecrans that day. And I also feel bad for Thomas Wood, because he got that order and he was like, the fuck? Like, and Wood knew if he didn't follow that order, he was going to be court-martialed, because he'd already been called out before for
Right.
stuff. And so he's
Mhm.
like, all right, I'm going to take my division, go this way.
Meanwhile, Thomas is sitting at the old Holiday Inn in Chattanooga saying, "You guys have a great time."
Yeah.
But he's the Rock at Chickamauga. I'm sorry, Chickamauga Rock.
Jesus.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. That's what he
He
did.
was up on Snodgrass.
Oh, he was for about 5 seconds. Go look at the nice pretty. He was drinking wine out of a freaking cup like you were that day.
Yep.
And then he took off back at Chattanooga when
Like,
the Holiday
look
Inn
over
and said,
there,
"You guys,
guys."
you guys have fun. You guys have a great time." You know. But I think you can't tell a story though. But you mentioned before about how Meade won Gettysburg with Hooker's army.
Yeah.
Didn't Hooker build on what McClellan built the
He
army?
absolutely did.
So it's kind of like, building a foundation of a house, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can go back to Winfield Scott, I guess, but I don't know. But you can see how this army was built. Now, there was, this is a volunteer army. Now, yeah, there were regulars, Burbank and Hannibal Day, and those guys. There were regulars in the army, but these guys, for the most part, were volunteers. This is shop makers and wheel makers and tavern owners and lawyers and whatever, right? So you had to basically do a complete build up, like the movie Glory, the Sergeant Major. Tend to that man, right?
Sergeant Major.
But you had to deal with these guys who they weren't military dudes. These weren't people who made the military their profession.
Yeah.
So it was hard at the beginning. So when you look at the latter parts of this war, the Meade, the Grants of the world, you have to look at how the foundation was set, right? Now you can say the same thing about the Confederates too. I mean,
exactly.
These, but they were, you know what though, the Confederates, the difference was they were fighting on their home turf though. They were defending their land. It's like the American Revolution here. There is an aspect to defending your property.
Exactly.
The North was the invaders. We were England in the Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And so that you can't dismiss that. But at the same time, you look at how strong these each general built on the shoulders of the previous one.
Yeah.
So you can't bash McClellan. You can't bash Hooker. I mean, you can, but you got to at least appreciate what they did. What Hooker did by reorganizing the army at Chancellorsville with the corps symbols and especially with the artillery.
Yeah.
You can't overstate that. And I know a lot of people do, but that's just the way it is.
No,
but again, if I'm wrong, who gives a shit? I don't care if I'm wrong. That's my opinion.
It's my opinion too. Like the thing with Hooker is that he takes a very broken AOP after Fredericksburg and the Mud March, and he manages to raise their morale back up. He's making sure they're getting fed properly. He's making sure that conditions in the hospitals are cleaner. He's giving them something to rally around, which is the corps symbols. Those are also important in raising the morale of an army that he saw as broken. And if you look to the letters the soldiers are writing, when Burnside is still in command, there's that one letter that soldier wrote that he's like, I feel like I'm on a ship and the captain is blind and we're heading towards rocks. That's how they felt when they're under command of Burnside. So then you have Burnside doing his stuff, raising the morale and just building back up this AOP that McClellan did create. And he's just making it better. Chancellorsville happens and it's a loss, but the morale manages to stay up because of that.
You know what though? It's a loss, but Hooker gets his army out.
Exactly.
And Lee was so pissed off. It was Chancellorsville was Lee's greatest victory, and it's not even close. But he was mad because he did not destroy the army, because the army lived to fight another day. And for every battle the Confederates fought, they were running out of men, they were running out of material. There was a clock running on them. So they had to do. So Thomas mentions Yankees baseball. Hey, Thomas, I'm still waiting for Mariano to close out Game 4 of that 2004 ALCS, by the way. Just let me know how that works out. But we had a good time with that. But no, but you could say that about any of these guys, though. But
Yeah.
I think the clock was running, and what you didn't have in the Confederacy was time.
Yeah.
And so for every Confederate victory, it was an ultimate big picture loss. Every time the Army lived to fight, that was it.
Exactly.
So if you think about it, the goal of the Union was to run out the clock, right? To keep the will going. It's all they needed to do. But they did.
Well,
and thanks for Babe Ruth. You can have Babe Ruth. It's okay. It all worked out well. So the Red Sox are the 21st century team. So we'll take it. Babe Ruth was pretty good though, man, before my time.
Anyway.
Obviously, no one knows how great the play No Nanette is. So the theater world won that trade, actually. Long story. Baseball fans know it. You just sit there with your Canadian bacon and Anne Murray albums. Don't worry about the rest of this. We'll take care of the rest of this stuff. Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How about those Indians though? Huh? Was it 1949?
They'll play the Red Sox someday in the
World Series. It'll be great.
Genius.
And whoever wins the winning touchdown will win that one.
I was just gonna give a Western theater example of this whole like how one had to build upon the other, and that it was recognized by the generals at the time that there was a building upon. And yes, this is an O.O. Howard story, but when he's traveling out west to go to the Western Theater, and this is the train thing.
Okay.
Get into the train.
Tension is now focused.
He does say that when he's traveling, he's realizing that he's going to be able to go to Chattanooga because of what Rosecrans did.
Yeah, of course he did.
That Rosecrans opened the way for Grant to do that.
Can you honestly, I forget who said he was a Stones River, right? But could someone honestly study Stones River and not appreciate Rosecrans? Seriously?
Well, Grant didn't.
Well, I mean, don't speak ill of the dead, Mary, because Grant can't defend himself. Okay.
I watched some of the Grant miniseries again last night. I mean, I do have a lot. I love Grant. A lot of respect for him.
Oh, Grant's the man. He
Yeah.
is. That cigar scene. Oh, God.
Yeah.
My ovaries drop when that scene happened. I'll tell you right now.
I know.
That cigar up.
That was legit shit right there.
Turkey was ready that day. But the reality was Rosecrans did such a good job at Stones River. He did. But and a little bit, he got a little bit lucky. He got a little bit lucky that Bragg attacked first.
Yeah.
But it was still a fun buddy to battle study.
But that is Team Rosecrans and Thomas too. The two of them.
Sheridan, you gotta give Sheridan.
Yeah, Sheridan, and then like Sheridan's going up against Claiborne, which is like that's Sheridan's shining moment right there. You're going up
against more than Cedar Creek?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll say you're right.
I'm not right. It's just my opinion. I just look at who he's going up against, and
Okay. How you go with that one, but I think the biggest takeaway with things like these Kernstown ones was just how you get such a better. Hopefully, people listen to the podcast, and if you do,
there's been a reference. There are a few people already have. I can tell by some of the comments that they.
But if you listen to that, if you study, if you listen to our podcast, whatever, we're not the end all freaking be all by any fucking stretch, but if you study these battles at Kernstown, it really gives you a greater appreciation for what came later in that peninsula. It really did.
It does.
Because a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. Because I remember when we did the whole McClellan versus Lincoln one 100 years ago, right? We talked about why would Lincoln take 60,000 guys at that moment and take him away from McClellan without even telling McClellan. Well, it was because of Kernstown.
Yeah.
That's why. Now, Lincoln was wrong. He was, right? But that's why he did it. And so when you look at this, it paints the whole picture, And Kernstown was a Confederate loss. I mean, it was a blatant, it was a hardcore,
but the far-reaching effects it had are crazy.
It was a harsh loss, kind of like my BC hockey against fucking Lowell the other day, which
Oh
I'm
my
not over.
God.
God, I'm so
I
pissed
know,
off
I
at
get
that.
it. I get it. I get it.
All right, they'll still win the national title, but I'm not happy about that Hockey East thing. I'll tell you right now. I'm
Mm.
going to write a letter. Imagine my surprise letter to Coach Jerry York about that one.
Are you
'cause I
gonna
was not
like
happy.
seal it up and not send it like Lincoln did with me?
No, I'm going to send it. That was during our podcast. That was during our trivia thing too. 4-1 lead in the third period. You lose in overtime while our thing was going on. I hid my anger very well, by the way, about that.
I know you did.
I was so pissed off. Oh,
Really, I didn't know.
you know what? You do your thing. You do you. But hey, Minnesota, Allie, they won. They came back and beat Michigan, though. My Michigan friends got pants like we did in overtime and blew a multi-goal lead in the third period.
God.
Congratulations to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But well,
So
Minnesota State got beat by some shitty team last night. Oh my God! But no one cares about college hockey except
I think it's clear that our takeaways from this episode are definitely the far-reaching effects that that this battle has, this small battle at the beginning of the Valley campaign, but there's also the human side of it too. And the one for me that hit me the most was Garnett. That this is a man that for the rest of his what is to be a short life is having to prove himself.
UMass is playing the final. You know what, Jim? I'm going to tell you right now. You dodged a bullet by Lowell beating BC. BC would have rolled UMass. Oh God, this is what sucks. This is why I hate it. I hate sports. I'm done. I'm fucking done.
I love sports.
No, I know, but it's okay. It's okay. Good for them. Hopefully UMass beats them because that'll avenge us, I guess. But what were you saying? I was
talking about how. Oh, really? You weren't? Oh, Jesus.
Except I can admit it. I don't deny it until. OSU hockey. Yeah, I went Snyder. I went to the Frozen Four in 2005 at that Schneidenstein Arena, or whatever it's called. Right there, it's a beautiful building. That ended. That was a bad night for old Darren. That was just like I don't want to tell that story, but
is that just like that store is closed? It's 1 a.m.
No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't Atlanta. God. No, that was the night when I was spent a couple hours in the I'm not telling that story.
that's like a call me maybe thing.
Oh, John Morgan, spending some time in the
you and John Morgan
spending some time in the finest of Ohio there, but that was quite a night right there. But that's a story for another day. That's
poor Savannah.
Anybody wants to have beers with me in Gettysburg sometime, I'll tell you the Ohio story. But Fincher, you know it, but I haven't told him. I'm not going to tell him.
I want to be there when you tell it.
Oh, good times.
Poor Savannah.
No, I wasn't a poor Savannah. Hell kind of freaking show you're.
Anyway, so as I was saying, we talked about obviously some of the takeaways that we had from this episode are the far-reaching effects of the battle itself, but there's the human side to it as well, and what it did to some of the people that fought in this battle. And I think the one for me that was a huge takeaway was Garnett and what happens to him. So what was yours for the human side of it? Just
the human side, I think for me, I mean, you mentioned Garnett, and that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably similar. I think Garnett truly thought he was sparing the Stonewall Brigade.
He did.
And I think he did that because it was the Stonewall Brigade, right?
He did.
Now, I think he didn't realize the fact that Stonewall Jackson was so focused on military order. You ask permission, you need permission to withdraw. But you know what, though? Jackson wasn't there. He was with the 5th VA still coming up,
Yeah, exactly. And but two, Jackson does get the intelligence to know what he's facing. Sandy Pendleton telling him, hey, there's this many, and Jackson's like,
Sandy Pendleton, huh? Okay. Same Sandy who was in Greece?
Yep.
Boy, speaking of getting your ass kicked on that one. Yeah, okay. Hey, real quick. So Barbara mentioned she emailed about the book. Barbara, I mailed your book yesterday, so it'll get to your address for however long the mail takes. So it's on its way. She didn't get her coupon from Silverware Teas. Well, I'll tell you about that. But I will tell you that your book went out in the mail yesterday. So anybody who won, speaking of winning, where's Leonard, by the way? I haven't seen him today.
I know. I
Is
was
he
just
on here?
thinking that. I was just thinking that.
But no, we the winners, we had 4 winners, and I sent an extra book, just so you know, Mary. I sent an extra book to our friend Mark because he signed on from the monument.
Yeah, that was awesome of him.
So those books all
cool.
so Barbara, your book was mailed yesterday. So let
Yep.
us know when you got it. Just send us a message or tweet or whatever you want to do. But it was mailed yesterday. So Darren, I sent you a picture of our beer department for when you come to Ohio. Jesus God. I've had many a beer in Ohio, Snyder.
So have I.
That one specific night did not end too well. As they say in the movie Gettysburg, it was a bad night for Mother. That night, that was not a good night. That one. But hey, here's to the Ohio State Police Department.
Jesus.
Anyway, fault, though, by the way.
It never is it?
That one wasn't. That one was not.
Anyways. But yes,
I was like William Tilden though. An hour later, I had escaped and I was on my way home.
Interesting.
I say, Charles Tilden. I say William Tilden.
I say William Tilden. I'm like, who the fuck?
I don't have blind to that one.
Brother? Is that like Charles Howard, who was Howard's
Speaking of Tilden, he was also at Five Forks, Mary.
Oh, so there might be a little Tilden action.
There's gonna be a Tilden. Be a Full Metal Tilden on this one.
Trust me, I'm going to be Team Mead on this one. Mead is getting some mentions.
Very well.
And so, but with Garnett, though, that was like he's having to act in the moment without knowing what is going on. He doesn't have the exact battle plan, and he's got this famous Stonewall Brigade. I think he did what he felt was right, and I give him the MVP on the Confederate side for that, because he probably saved a lot of men with what he did. But what happens to him at the end of that, where he, like Stonewall, I think recognized how much he fucked up, and it could have been a complete disaster. I mean, it was already a loss for them, but he needed a scapegoat, and it was Garnett. And that was really, and that's why Garnett.
That's too bad.
Why he died.
Cost him his life. I mean, Tony asked, was Ashby effective at Kernstown? No, at all. No. I mean, he got bad intelligence from the citizens in Winchester and Kernstown, which is about 3 miles away, stating that the Union had left 4 regiments behind instead of the 3 divisions. And he was wrong. He didn't verify the info. He took it and said, yep, I'll go with it. Don't check it, go with it. He took the information and gave it to Jackson, who also didn't verify it.
No.
And then what was funny about this, though, is you look at how one of my favorite questions we get, or anybody gets, is that stupid question of would Jackson have taken that hill at Gettysburg?
No.
Right? And this is why he wouldn't have, because of Kernstown. Now, if he survived Chancellorsville, he would. Why he got beat at Kernstown was because he did not know the enemy's number, and he attacked anyway. He would not. The one thing you could say about Jackson is he learned. He would not have made that mistake if he lived, because he would have got to that hill. He had no Jeb Stuart. He had no cavalry. He did not know the number. The 6th Corps was there, and that's why they didn't take that hill. The 6th Corps, okay?
Yeah.
He did not know where they were. He would have remembered Kernstown. He would not have taken that. He would not have attacked because of Kernstown. That's why he wouldn't have. So there you go. Take that to the bank, Mary. You can take that to any battle guide you want. I'll tell you right now.
A Union parallel to that is Sickles at the Peach Orchard with Chancellorsville. I will be a cemetery super fan on that one, Mary. Hey, okay, because you could take anywhere you want there. He would not have done it for that reason if he survived. But if he survived, they wouldn't have been there, because they wouldn't have been would have been 3 Corps, been 2, and they never would have gone to Gettysburg. That's another story. But Ashby was a complete train wreck. He was a complete train wreck at this one. And he was Jackson's boy. He was his confidant. And this is a guy we mentioned earlier. He was so pro-Southern, pro-angry because his brother got killed and bayoneted. He's like the Forrest of the Eastern Theater. That's who this guy is.
Well, I think he's more like the Wheeler of the Eastern Theater.
Well, he's a bit of both, I think.
Well, I mean, Forrest was more audacious, and he had a little more victories. He was kind of you know who he was like, Mary? He was more like the Van Dorn of the Eastern Theater. Minus
Was he
the
going to the
Bang Barn thing.
I was just saying, was he
Yeah.
going to the Bang Barn and the Ass
I mean, I don't
Factory?
know if he was looking for love in all the wrong places, like Earl Van Dorn was, but I think he was
Bang
probably
Barn.
I think he was somebody who was aggressive, but he was reckless, right?
Yes.
And I think it was lazy. It wouldn't have taken much to verify the troop strength. I mean, you had three. You had three. You had 9,000 soldiers. Okay, you had a bunch of friggin' soldiers left over. You had a full division. Okay, there were not 4 regiments left over. It would not have taken much to verify who was there because you had the cavalry.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you know what they do? They don't do anything the day of the battle either. When they go to that stone wall and Pendleton sees those numbers.
Yeah.
Pendleton's he's not a cavalry guy. He's an adjutant. He's the one who sees the troop numbers. So where's Ashby there? Where is he afterwards when he gives Jackson that intelligence to tell him I was wrong? There's actually 9,000 guys here. It's a goddamn full division, not 4 regiments, right? Where's the cavalry after this? And that's why the whole Cemetery Hill thing is complete foolishness.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you about.
There you go.
Yeah, I do agree with you about Cemetery Hill and all that. But I
look at you,
fucker.
Whatever.
But I think the Union parallel to that is Sickles at the Peach Orchard. That's a real thing that happened. Sickles has the ghost of Chancellorsville chasing him, just as Jackson would have had the ghost of Kernstown chasing him, like what you talked about. But Sickles moves his division up because of what happened at Chancellorsville.
He does, and he has
stuff that happens in these previous battles does follow these generals.
Well, that's why it's important when you study like a Gettysburg, for example, right? And you look at the Sickles movement up to the Peach Orchard. Like to your point, there's a reason why. Okay.
Yeah.
There's an absolute reason why that happens. You can't just sit there and say it's arbitrary. Now you can defend Sickles all you want, because at that point, we said before, that battle wasn't going to be just offensive. Meade was trying to side Meade offensive or defensive, right?
Yeah.
And Sickles did try to get clarification. He did try to get permission to move, and Meade never got back to him. So he did.
Exactly.
But his experiences he had in Chancellorsville with moving his army from that high ground to low ground, and the Confederates taking it and then shelling him, he learned from it.
He did.
And so when you look back at that whole thing, it makes a lot of sense. No question.
Yeah. No, it does. And it's the Jackson thing is, again, this goes back to the myth of Jackson and who has the most mythology around them. A really great question you asked earlier. It's the whole Gettysburg thing too plays into that, right? Because people are like, what if Jackson was at Gettysburg? Like that's
Here's one for you, blowing my mind. What if Meade was at Gettysburg? Quick. No, Tony's right. He never go to his brother Richard. His brother Richard Mary mentioned he got crucified, leveled. He was bayoneted several times. I mean, he got his lunch taken. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, he got hit on the head, like,
right.
And the way that Turner found him was just the story is very sad. But then, there's that story about Ashby where he and his men find these dead Union soldiers. They take their clothes off and they put one in crucifix style and put holes in his palms. Like, what the hell? He's
war is hell, Mary. War is hell. Hey, Mark, we'll see you later, man.
Yeah, see you later, Mark.
And Tony brings up a good point, though. What if Ashby? I mean, Ashby would get killed at Good Farm later on. He gets shot right through the heart.
Yeah. You're to blame.
He gave Love a bad name.
He knew that was going to happen.
But I mean, he never really answered for Kernstown, though, right?
And when Garnett was brought forth for the court martial, it was, I think, just Stonewall and Pendleton testifying against him. Like, Garnett didn't have a chance. Luckily, Lee steps in and says, "This is stupid. We have a war to fight. There's a bigger things going on than I think he recognized Jackson was meddling.
Well, I mean, this was a pattern for Jackson too. Don't forget too, he also had AP Hill court-martialed from Harvest
This
Ferry.
goes back to the diva thing.
Yes,
with him.
and so
and then AP Hill shows up at Antietam because
he saves the day in Antietam out of pure spite.
because he's looking for money from Burnside.
He's looking to get back in McClellan for scooping his chick, and he wants to get back in Jackson's good graces of getting court-martialed. I mean, you want to talk about? I mean, people think these battles are so black and white. There's so much to this. There's so much humanity to this of how these things change.
Exactly.
AP Hill saved the Confederacy out of pure spite.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm going.
I mean, think about it. It's just true though. That could have ended that day. Burnside could have got him before they got to the Potomac, but AP Hill shows up because he can't. Where's my $2? That's why he shows up to take it. That's why.
I just imagined AP Hill rolling into Antietam with the song "Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta."
Oh God, he got that say it's going to be a good day.
He's got that red shirt
the Ice Cube meme, the GIF. That's how he rolls in. He's going to get his girl, he's going to get his money, he's going to get his pride. He's going to get all three. He's going to take them all back that day
with his red shirt and his ham bone in the pocket.
Yeah, and his hard rash he was riding with
from visiting the pet bar.
But it's true though.
It is.
I mean, and the truth of the matter is that he had $9,000 from him. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Right? That's a lot.
Well, and Burnside is fucking paying somebody for intelligence at Fredericksburg. And I was like, dude, you owe AP Hill some money.
Yeah, well, he had the money. He was making it rain, But that's the thing, though, is when you study these people as people instead of looking at these people just as names, right? And that's why you got to study this stuff. And we would, I think Lisa's still on. We were talking about John Wilkes Booth in our podcast.
Yeah.
And you study him as a person, in his affinity for his sister Asia, in his mother, and it tells a whole different story to understanding these people more so than just the names of it.
Yeah, well, it's like we've said about Booth before. He's not some guy that just appears on April the 14th and dies on April, on April 26th, right? Like, there's a story behind him, and it's a guy who everybody was like, I can't believe he did that, but
when you study a guy like a Booth as a person and you look at his psychology, right, and you look at how he had this really strong despite the whole women of the Booth thing, Hale and all these people, he clearly, the most important people in his life were his sister and his mother. And we talk about that. And Lisa does a great job on her.
Oh, she does. No, she really does.
Now that's my mind. So when you if you want a really good psychological study of Booth, check out Lisa's lecture. Right?
Yeah, no, it's really good. And read Asia Booth's book too, in companion to that.
Read her book, because you know what though, Lisa's going to make you think, and she's going to make you think, and that's the thing, and that's what you should be doing anyway.
Exactly, right? You have to go. And I mean, the thing that you and I do in this, and I know Lisa does this too, which is really awesome. You read between the lines, and you can form your own opinions, and you're not wrong about that. If somebody tells you that you're wrong for something, then fuck that. And believe me, I've been told that many times.
Oh, really? You've been told? I've been wrong many times.
I've been told I'm wrong.
Not for me.
No, and I don't think I've told you you're wrong.
No, never, no. Anyway, I'm just going to sit here and do my Kermit. Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, no, you never. Okay, all right. Okay, go on. And this part of the podcast is brought to you by Fantasyland. If I had a nickel. But you know what though? Oh yeah, okay. Give me your big doughy. Oh my God, look, but whatever. But I think, going back to we were talking about the Booth thing, to Lisa's point though, and that I'm telling you, watch her podcast. I'm telling you when she does it, because it is such an eye opener. If you're on a Boothie, like we consider ourselves a Boothies, right? But if you're not, and you see her podcast, it's going to make you think. And then
And there's
it's
nothing wrong
so.
with being a Booth.
No, it's great though, because she does a really great job of humanizing him, right?
And that's what's needed, is because I think, I mean, as much as I respect Abraham Lincoln, I've just studied him for a long time, you know, he has been elevated to this point, that on this pedestal, and Booth has been made into this just kind of this monster. And I mean, it's horrible what he did to Lincoln, absolutely horrible. It's why, you know, a lot of what goes on in the US is still happening. And we can see, you know, you can see the far reaching effects of what he did even to this day. But there is a story. There is a story. You know, he's a human. He's a guy who, you know, everybody was shocked. His friends were shocked when he did that.
Right. And you know, when he killed Lincoln, I mean, his people couldn't believe it was him.
It's like Leonardo DiCaprio killing Biden is what it's like.
Yeah.
That's what it would be like. Leonardo DiCaprio walking in and killing the president, you would think.
Yeah. That was
even better, maybe Tom Hanks, you know?
Well, no, but I guess, I mean, you know, but you know what though? DiCaprio is still that heartthrobby little actor. He's still that guy. So he's more of a better comparison. But either one, but that famous of a level. But I mean, you know what though? He wasn't that Robert De Niro, Al Pacino level, right? Yeah. He was that B level guy. So I don't know.
His brother was more the Al Pacino level actor. Like Edwin, I think
he was the Billy Baldwin to Alec Baldwin.
Exactly.
He was. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think going to play show. Start with love. All right, Bob. Hey, thanks for jumping in, man.
Yeah. Good luck, Bob. See ya. Thanks for talking.
But I think when you study history at a high level, and we're not going to make more of ourselves than we are, because we're not. Yeah. But I think when you study at a higher level, and you study these people as people, you really can understand where they're coming from. And not just Booth, because we mentioned him, but just talk about guys like Jackson, right? And talking about guys like all of them. Yep. Every one of these people, AP Hill is what got us on this trail going down this whole thing, was they're people and their egos, and they have families and they have thoughts, and every single one of these people is doing things for their own individual reason, right? You can talk about Henry Heath at Gettysburg, right? Why did he take 7,500 men in artillery to go take out some guys, some militia? Because he knew it was an opportunity to freaking take the city and be a hero. It was a psychological part of it. And so there's a lot of it with these guys. That's why you got to study these people as people, not names.
Yep. And read between the lines too. And that's how we discovered what was going on, probably what was going on with Rosecrans. We don't know if we're right about it, but I think he did have PTSD by the time that Chickamauga rolled around. He, you know, and so that's why Lincoln's comment bothers me. You know, he was confused and stunned like a duck hit in the head, like that.
You used to love that line.
I used to love that comment, but then, like, admittedly, I did. I full well admit I used to love that comment, but then when I look at it more, more closely at Rosecrans, you know, I'm like, wow, this is a guy he's made a mistake in how he spread his army out, and Thomas has told him that. He's had very little sleep. And he's having to basically like leapfrog his army back to holding the city that he could lose. And if he loses it, what does that say for the Union? And top it all off, his best friend gets his head lobbed off in front of him, you know, at Stones River, and he's carrying all that with him. And he sees a sea of blue running towards him, and then all of a sudden it's a sea of gray. He loses it. You know, in that moment. And I think that's the thing that we sometimes forget. Like, we're so quick to criticize these men for what they did, but we don't think, okay, what's happening in their heads that they have a moment of, oh my God. But luckily you had men in the field at Chickamauga, like Wood, and I think Lytle was gone by that point. But you have these men that were able to rally together, and they're able to hold Longstreet and Claiborne back long enough that they can get that city. That the Union is able to hold it.
And Jim mentions the Robert E. Lee book, which is I finally finished that this morning, Mary. Finally finished that book this morning, and that book is just mind numbing. I mean,
it is.
You want to talk about, and he's right. I'm going to paraphrase Jim here, but he's you know, you want to talk about how the American Civil War still impacts society today. Read that book, because that book right there, that you cannot You cannot possibly understand society today without reading that book. I mean,
No.
it is a mind-numbing eye-opener. It's very much like Confederates in the Attic. It's I think Confederates in the Attic is a little better just because I read that one first. And I think
Yeah.
that was the holy shit moment I had. But
Yeah.
this one's just as good. And anybody who's read Confederates in the Attic and Robert E. Lee and Me, I'd love to see your comparison about how you think those two books are. This Horowitz book versus Saduli's book is just great, but they're both great reads, and it's 1A and 1B. But it really opens your eyes, though, about some of the stuff that's still going on, and people are set in their ways. Anybody who's been down to the South understands it. I get it, but there's a certain aspect that isn't that bubble, right? Where they just don't want to learn. They just want to accept the way they always thought and presents it. And you see that in today's society and politics and life.
Yep.
Presents it with mind-numbing facts. They still don't want to hear it, and they just put themselves in that bubble. And Tony's book does such a good job of explaining that, as does Ty's book. They both do.
Oh, like his book, Robert E. Lee and Me, was very. I mean, I knew what was going on, but this was very eye-opening for me. And it
Flowers in the Attic. Yeah, yes, it's not. That's exactly what. Flowers.
Good
Lord.
Little VC Andrews.
My mother read that book back in the freaking 70s.
You would not believe how popular those books still are.
But I just think I just remember reading Confederates in the Attic and having that holy shit moment where you think you get it, and you read this stuff and you sit back. And I used to live in Texas, so I understand a lot of things. And I never lived in Bama or Mississippi, okay, but I've lived in Texas, and I get a little bit of the mentality. But Confederates in the Attic was my moment to read that and just get it, right? But the book, that Robert E. Lee book, is this Confederates Attic. It's too bad that Tony Horowitz died.
I know,
because he died relatively young. I think he was a relatively young guy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, like, for me, reading Robert E. Lee and Me, being raised in Canada, obviously not exposed to the Civil War in school or anything like that, but I was raised on Songs of the South, the Disney thing. So I really related to that part of the book, and it was, to me, I had no clue, right? Like, they were just stories that my grandma told me, or I had the Disney on, it was on a record, like, so it was on vinyl. So there, I'm dating myself right there. And I would play the songs, and I had no clue, because you're 5 years old listening to this. And so then my dad took me on the Splash Mountain at Magic Kingdom, and he's like, do you remember when your grandma read you these stories? And I'm looking around at all the things, I'm like, having this moment of, this is so racist and just part of the lost cause. So when I read that part of Sedgley's book, I really related to it, because I had no, you're that young, you have no idea, right?
No,
What's
but I mean,
the comment?
no, just that's the
Zippity.
No, but I mean, but Allie makes a good point. Is that it's an outsider versus an insider's view.
Yeah.
But I think most people who study this are outsiders. So I think Confederates in the Attic is really gonna resonate more with the average John Q. public people, versus Sedgley is more of the people who study this stuff the way we do.
Yeah.
And you read the stuff and you go, holy shit, he's right. But anybody who hasn't read Confederates in the Attic, or especially lately, should read it. And if you've read it,
Jim just said he's going to read it again. I have the audiobook. I need to listen to it because
it's so interesting. And that was what was groundbreaking about that book. Was it was the first book that I've ever read that kind of held the whole emperor has no clothes mentality of the South and their ability to understand the Confederacy. And Ty's book spikes the ball because he's much more specific on the Klan, about the Robert E. Lee, Washington and Lee University, all the stuff that with West Point.
The West Point,
right. He's very clear, and he gives more examples of a lot of insiders. Like, I didn't know about the hall that. I mean, I've been at West Point, but I mean, understanding the name changes and how these guys were banished and they were brought back in the 1930s. The Confederacy was kind of brought back into good graces again in West Point. I didn't know that. But what Confederates in the Attic does is it brings you as an outsider into mentality of the South, of
Mhm.
how they think at the time. Now, look, again, it's not everybody. We're not painting with a broad brush here. I
Yeah.
realize not everybody in Alabama is some crazy Confederate, whatever.
Yeah.
But but this guy Horowitz found these people and just got into their heads a little
Mhm.
bit about how they thought. And as a guy who used to live in the South, it was still a shocker to me.
Yep.
And so if you haven't read that book lately, read it. If you haven't read it, you have to read it. It's just mandatory reading because it just makes you open your eyes to a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And again, if history is always an ongoing education and ongoing evolution of thought, this is a book that has to be read. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Well, that's how studying the Civil War should be. Like I get people are set in their ways. I was set in my ways, for example, for years about that Rosecrans comment. I thought it was funny. I'm like, yeah,
I think you're set in your ways about Howard now, by the way.
I admit he made mistakes.
Oh, sure.
Mistakes were made at
Sometimes he
Chancellorsville.
combed his hair a little bit wrong. He was not always this perfect.
For someone who only had one arm, his hair always looked fabulous.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, thanks for jumping on. Yeah, he must have had a hairstylist. He must have had somebody,
He actually did have a guy that helped him.
Yeah, it
get
was probably
dressed.
Von Steinwehr, probably.
Von Gilsa.
That's why he kept Koster back, or he kept Orland Smith back at Gettysburg if he can stay back and comb his hair for him. Koster, you go to the brickyard. I'm gonna keep Orland Smith back here. He's gonna do my hair.
He's doing my quaff.
But it was good. But yeah, hey Robert, Robert's the other guy who jumped on our thing the other night.
Yeah, it was awesome to meet him the other night.
Yeah, he's a good dude. That was a lot of fun the other night. I hope he
yeah,
hope he had
no,
fun.
that was good. Yeah, we're definitely going to do the trivia thing again. I think that was a lot of
definitely
fun.
That was cool. That was so friggin' funny.
It was that guy, that dude.
Catlets. No, it's Catlet. That was so damn funny. That was...
And I couldn't see anybody because I was doing the slideshow. So I'm hearing all this
I could see the funniest part about it, in all honesty, was watching friggin' Allie Biddles. Right?
Oh, I know.
So I could see her on my screen. I could see you. I could see Allie. I could see Robert. Yeah. And I forget who else I could say. I think I saw Jim. Because there's like 4 people in the screen. Yeah. And the second the question would ask, you hear the lady start typing, and she would just stop. She would just turn and start laughing.
Just you did. I'm like, oh my god!
but that probably cost Biddles a book. Because she couldn't stop laughing. She couldn't type. It was so friggin' funny.
Robert's drinking Tim Hortons this morning.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Well, maybe I won't lose my Canadian card now because someone American is drinking. So there we go.
So free, but it was so funny though. It just was. It was a great night. We'll do that again. I mean, we do these roundtables every month, Robert and everybody else. So definitely jump on. Book club's coming up finally in 2 weeks.
God. I was reading Black Iron.
What was great about that? The thing about it though, and Jim mentioned the cheating. We didn't really. It was to a point, but we didn't say. I mean, it wasn't
the only
right?
the only answers that got counted were the first 6.
But I mean, exactly. That's why we did that. So it wasn't cheating per se, because it was like nobody was really like. We didn't say you don't look it up or anything like that.
Yep.
But it was so funny. Like they had it all set up. Like all I could picture was this guy sitting at his computer, his wife like next to her with her iPad, and she was feeding the questions and she was typing. And it was so funny, and the fact that they didn't mute themselves was so perfect. It was good. It was pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
But it made it so much funny though. But I don't know. We don't know. We never know who it was.
No, we
don't know who it was. It was pretty funny. But I'm glad people can appreciate that. I think this whole Civil War thing can be fun. I think it can be.
Absolutely, it can. Especially when you look at them. The thing that makes it fun is when you look at them as humans and you try and find like stories about them so that they're not just generals, right? They're like Stonewall's a fucking diva. He is.
Somebody had left a review on our podcast and said it's making the Civil War fun again, right? But it should always be. But history should be fun. It should be. But you know what though? It's not black and white. It's not X and O's. History is always that gray area. And you know what? Not every bit of history is written about. You have to fill in the gaps
You have to
sometimes
read
to
between the
understand it,
lines,
right?
and some,
And
yeah,
that's what's great is it's the what ifs, it's the whole maybes. That's what makes it great is
exactly,
studying all this stuff. And it's so much fun when you get to do that. And so of course it's fun. Have fun with it because you know what?
exactly,
Because no one, the best part about speculation with history is no one's wrong.
exactly.
You know what? If that states your opinion, if you think this, okay, fine. If you can back it up, great. If you can't, whatever. But have fun with it because we're talking about it, and that's what makes it cool,
Yeah, and
isn't it?
it's keeping the exactly, and it's keeping the memory of the Civil War alive, but it's looking at it in a way that, it's not, it doesn't have to be written down. You can read between the lines and realize something about somebody, but the other thing too, it's like I always love to know who people's Civil War favorites are. Favorite general, favorite battle, all that, because everybody has different reasons. And for me, like, people are like, well, why do you like Howard? He wasn't that great. It's like, he doesn't have to be the most talented general in the battlefield.
No, you don't have to. Oh,
No, the one of the
he's
reasons I love Oliver Otis Howard is because he stood by his religion in the face of that he was talked about behind his back, and he probably knew it. But he's a guy that stood by what he believed, and he never backed down from that. But two, he was, when you read his memoirs, when you look at him, you recognize that this is an individual that, first of all, was far ahead of his time in the way he thought about people. I think he did see African Americans as being his equal because his best friend growing up was an African American. But the other thing too is he's not like Grant and Sherman. Grant and Sherman's memoirs are amazing, but Oliver Otis Howard's are, to me, they're up there with them because Howard doesn't really have that agenda. He has a bit of one, but it's not to the extent that Grant and
mm,
Sherman had. Like, in his memoirs, like, Howard criticizes Braxton Bragg for throwing Claiborne and the other men that fought at Chattanooga under the bus, saying they weren't brave. And Howard said, those guys at Chattanooga, those battles, they gave us a run for our money. Like, he's very honest in how he talks about these battles. And Howard also has a sense of humor and puts himself down. That's why I like him, you
well,
know.
Howard has that moment at Columbia when he got bitched at by that,
Woman
but
bitched at by apparently who was me in another life. It's probably me.
yep. So I guarantee you her response were fine. It's okay. If you want to, just don't. Just stop. You know, um, but that's the way that was. But hey, Barbara wants to know how things are going with the vaccine in Canada. Mary, how's that going? We talked about this yesterday, didn't we? Yeah, not so
In
much.
my province, okay, just quickly, in my province specifically, so my own health unit and a couple other health units have kind of quote unquote gone rogue, and we've got our own booking system and all that. We are moving into, in my province, vaccinating 75 and over.
So
That's
you're
where we
close.
are. I'm getting there. I will probably have mine by, oh, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I'm hoping to have it maybe by July.
You get
Um,
it. You get it.
yeah,
God's
no,
sakes.
I know I will, but no, it's not been, mistakes were made. I'll put it to you that way, especially in my own province, where
Hey, old Biden's hooking up, sending you guys some
he
vaccines
is
for you guys. Hook you up.
I'm so thankful for that. Like, because our problem was that we did not bother to retool any of our factories or any places that could have made the vaccines. We didn't, so we are relying almost completely on international supply right now. We have no
Mhm.
domestic supply like you guys do. It has been, for a country that has free healthcare, it hasn't been the
Yeah.
greatest.
Hey, Craig, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
Hi from Bozeman, Montana.
Yeah.
That's where Drew Bledsoe has a
Oh,
house up there. Great Patriot quarterback, fantastic. My opinion, the greatest quarterback in Patriots history because I blocked out the other guy. But yeah, Montana's nice. I think that's where it is. Yeah, Allie, my husband got his before his 70th year. Yeah,
yep.
a lot of people here. My nephew, by the way. Let me tell you a story, man. I think I told you this. I don't know if I told you this or not.
No, you
But
didn't.
my nephew lives up in New Hampshire.
Hmm.
Okay, and he's probably about 30-ish, right? and he went to a local pharmacy next door to where he worked every day at the end of the day where he closed, where he worked, right? And went over there and said, "Do you have any extra vaccines?" No. He did it every day for about a month. And finally, they said, "Yep, we got an extra one." And he got his shot. And then once you get your first shot, they give you the second one automatically.
Yep.
So because he kept being persistent, he kept going there. Some old guy didn't show up for his thing. And they can't keep these vaccines forever. Nope. So they have to get rid of him. So he was the right place, the right time. So as a 30-year-old kid, he got vaccinated.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now the Biden says I'll have mine by the end of May.
Yeah,
but who the hell knows? I mean, I'm still in the younger demographics. I don't really know, believe it or not. I'll probably get my, I just got my polio vaccine here. So this country's medical. I just got my bubonic plague one, so I don't know. We'll see.
No, like my health unit is doing an amazing job with it, and we're well ahead of where other areas in the province are, thankfully, because they decided not to go with the provincial booking system. But yeah, it hasn't been the greatest here. Like we are.
Love Steve Grogan. No, but yeah, thanks for checking out the podcast this week. Yeah, Turner Ashby, he was there, but he wasn't, unfortunately. So, but I'm glad you listened to it. If anybody who's listened to the podcast, let us know what you think about it. We had a lot of fun with that one. We have a lot of fun with all these podcasts.
We do.
Some people think they're good. Some people don't like them. But it's pretty funny.
Some people think I'm pathetic.
Well, not me. You don't point your bony finger at me.
I'm not.
No, Mary caught some shit for this one.
Yeah, I did
before, and that's fine. But I'll be honest. I don't want to say Kernstown's my biggie because Gettysburg is.
Yeah.
But I think Kernstown's a great study, and anybody who's been to Winchester knows what a fantastic visit that place is, and a great little city that is. Stay in Winchester for the night. Go to the bars that night. Go to the restaurants, and then go to Kernstown the next day, and then it's a great time. It just really, really is.
I think some of these smaller battles are becoming up there with me for Gettysburg and Chickamauga. Like I love Stones River. Stones River is such a cool battle, because
I've not been there yet. We'll go visit old Jim here and head down to Murfreesboro.
Yeah, we will for sure. Yep. I think Stones River and Franklin were the two for me that really I've latched onto more than I ever had before. Like I was always like into Franklin because of Claiborne and all that, but just the Mason story with Claiborne was what really I was like, holy fuck, that's
the Freemasonry stuff is so cool. I mean, obviously, personally, I think the Mason stuff is really, really cool. I get to study that stuff regularly, but those of us who are not, raised on the sublime level of Master Mason, Mary, like some people here,
or because they're the wrong sex.
You would have got rejected anyway. I would have blackballed your ass, but but it's a good study. But those stories are really, really cool too. Yeah, no kidding. There is a podcast. That's the thing we talked about this before. Is there is a podcast? It isn't just these stupid lives. It's like listen to the pod, please. The whole point was the pod.
People do listen to the podcast.
So we were talking the other day, right? We listened to the very first podcast we did, right?
Oh God!
We were making fun of it because for a million reasons. It's
so cringy. And what we want to do sometime is we're going to put the podcast on and play it at some point, and we're going to record our reactions to it. The very first episode.
It was fun, but there is a podcast to it. And we talked. You mentioned the point where it's like we're going to do a Facebook Live the next day or on Saturday. We'll maybe like 15 minutes. We'll jump on for a post, and now it goes 2 hours. But the podcast is the primary thing. That is the whole deal. But it is pretty funny though.
But we are very happy for all of you who come out to these Facebook Lives because these are awesome too. Like, and I do post these on YouTube as well. I was gonna post them as episodes, but I'm like. I think I posted one as an episode, but they're so long that I'm like, nobody probably wants to listen to that. They probably want to watch it live. Is Snyder said he's finally caught up on the podcast. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we do. It's fun. I mean, what's cool about what's interesting about it though. It's kind of like a high wire act because it's not like we sit down and write this shit down. We just study and we just talk.
Yep.
And we do a good job of not kind of going against each other, contradicting each other, or just stepping over each other, whatever. But it is funny though about the dynamic of recording that.
Oh, it is.
Because sometimes somebody's not in the best mood when we do this, and we have to overcome an emotional thing at the beginning, and that usually takes care of it as it goes on. But this last one, I don't know if you can tell by the beginning, but somebody was not in a great mood.
It was a fucking time change.
Oh, well, the time change, but
we admittedly have been laughing about it all week. At least I can laugh about it now and admit that I was a bit of a biatch at the beginning. I was a bit of a Stonewall diva at the beginning.
So we go on like, you're ready to go? Yup. Really? Are you ready to go? Yes, I'm fine. I'm like, what the hell's your problem? It was so friggin' funny, but it was definitely entertaining. It just is, but it's not.
Oh God,
scripted
Snyder
or
mentions the
rehearsed.
fucking musical chairs song. Jesus.
Oh,
Don't.
It's all you're gonna do. It's so funny.
No, we
the
don't
musical
script
chairs.
any of this.
No.
What about musical chairs?
Nothing. I don't know when that came up that very first time we mentioned musical chairs, but it was pretty funny, and you get all like chewed tinfoil look on your face like whenever it gets mentioned, you know.
Look, it's fucking anxiety inducing.
Well, every kid knows musical chairs. No kid in the world likes musical chairs because it's an exclusionary game and it freaks you out. It puts pressure on you.
So does Duck Duck Goose.
Dr. Goose is the same exact game. The parachute game is the same exact game. All these games are the same exact game. Dodgeball, right? If you wore elastic waistband pants, you weren't good at dodgeball. Many kids I went to school with struggled at dodgeball. That's why they don't do it anymore.
There was somebody that one of my friends went to a Catholic school and they played a game at recess called bag tag. Use your imagination. Yeah. They had to have it banned. The principal had to sit down with all the boys.
Well, there was like monkey in the
somebody
middle.
Literally lost something. Somebody literally had something ripped off.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Red
light, green light.
but I think the whole thing's I mean, whatever. But it was pretty funny. But when we do these though, it is funny, the dynamic. What we should do is record the pre-recording sometime, and just post that.
Yeah, this is a bonus behind the scenes.
It is such a psychological study of humanity. It's so funny, but I think this is a good one. It was a really good episode,
and yeah, we don't script any of this. We each make our own notes and just kind of come on. We meet Monday night to kind of briefly talk about how the flow of it, and then go from there.
Yeah, and we do it Tuesday. So.
No, and I mean, I have to say, like, I'm getting a little bit serious here, but Darren is like the perfect podcast co-host.
Not suck. No, it's fun. We have a good time with this. It just is. But you know what though? When we started this, the whole point was simple. We wanted to have fun with this. We wanted to, personify these people, talk about these people as humans, and just kind of work through it. And that was the best part about it. And so, Mary's smart. She knows her stuff, which is really cool too, because she's somebody who brings a lot of this stuff, and a lot of this knowledge is hers. I've always said before this podcast, I'm always happy to be your Robin to your Batman with this.
That's not how I feel about it.
But we have to just keep chugging through, and just hoping people have fun with it. And that's so as this stuff goes forward, we'll continue with this. And I love the idea of continuing that trivia thing.
Yeah, no, that is fun. And it's not, the thing is like our group is not competitive. So it's just like go on there and have some fun with it, right?
Jacob's pretty competitive though. He was giving me some shit last night about that Patriots Vinatieri stuff. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, Mary.
I did. I chimed in.
He was swinging last night.
Yeah, he was. I mean, like the thing we just wanted to do was give people a place where they could come and talk about this, which isn't like those serious places on Facebook where you get shot down for stuff, you know. I just wanted a place where people could come and talk and not.
No, we don't want to pretend we're people in the past, like, former spies or anything like that. We don't want to do that stuff. But you're but people's opinions always matter. It does. And
Yeah.
the reality is just, we just want to have fun with this, and everybody wants to have fun. There's so much shit in the world. There's so much shit. History is fun. And you know what? There's no right or wrong. It's just finding that gray area and talking about it and debating it and having a good time with it. And that's what this is.
Exactly.
So I'm glad people do. There's no opinion on anything on this platform that we do that's wrong. You want to sit here and talk. You want to say the war is not about slavery. Knock yourself out. We don't care. Just have a case to it. We just have fun with it. It's just we discovered about a year ago now that there aren't a lot of places in real life where you could talk about this stuff with people. I don't know anybody, my work friends, my non-work friends, who can sit down and we can talk about Stonewall at Kernstown, because no one cares.
No, exactly. So, it's not one of the, and the other thing too, like Lisa always says, like, we learn more together, and that's exactly like how you and I, we learn from each other. But then, we learn from this kind of this breakfast club, this Civil War breakfast club that has formed up this community thanks to these people that, they come on and talk on our forum, on our website, on Twitter, and they join us on Saturday mornings. We're grateful for all of that, because that's what keeps it going. And the round tables are just a place for, we wanted people to come and just discuss stuff. We didn't want to have a speaker at them. That's how we're different with it. Just come and talk about it.
That one drunken afternoon on the balcony of the in a cemetery hill.
Yeah, where this podcast was dreamed up.
Deciding we should probably just record these, but it's fun though. It's fun. But I think I think it gives anybody, it's an opportunity to talk with others, like-minded people. And that's what's great about those round tables. Those round tables are a lot of fun.
They are. Yeah,
so if you haven't joined the book club yet, so we're doing that in 2 weeks, a week and a half now, the 31st of March.
A week from Wednesday. Wednesday.
So we are going to talk about Eric Schleinley's book about the Black Iron Mercy, which is a great book. Hopefully everyone's read that. I think everyone's liked it. We both know the author, who's really, really cool.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
He's very appreciative of the fact, all this stuff. So we are going to do that as we kind of wind this down here. So, so we will be talking next week, like we said before, about Five Forks.
Yeah, and then we're going to get into 2 episodes about Shiloh, which I am really looking forward to.
We could do at least 2. We could do more than 2 on Shiloh if we really wanted to.
Well, we can do a threesome if you want.
Well, we'll see. Jesus Christ, but it's fun to it's fun to talk about. But Shiloh is a great battle, and again, Shiloh is the combination or the summation of Henry and Donaldson and all these other ones we talked about before. Pea Ridge, all it's kind of like these little skirmishes that build up in this big battle, and Shiloh is a summation of that big battle. Right. And so that's what this is. And so it's fun. So we can have a lot of fun with that. We'll do the same thing with some of these bigger battles going forward. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you have not signed up for the book club, even if you haven't read the book, just come on. It's fun. We just like to be at the round table. We just hang out.
Yeah, we got Colleen from Ireland is going to. He wants to come on for the book club, even though he hasn't read the book. He was like, "Can you send me the invite? I still want to be." He just wants to be there. Which is awesome. Robert said he ordered the book the other night. Oh, that's awesome. Hope you enjoy it, Robert. It's really good. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Lisa said you both totally rock. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Lisa, awesome, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep.
We're gonna meet with Lisa tomorrow. So and we'll see you Thursday night at our class.
Yep.
Lisa's our professor in class, so she's our teacher. So we gotta behave ourselves in our class. Get ourselves in trouble, get detention or something from Lisa. But it's a lot of fun. So we will we're getting ready to jump off. It's 12:20, so we'll jump off. So for the most part, we have Five Forks coming up on Tuesday. We're going to record. We're going to drop it next week. We'll do the live, and then following Wednesday will be our book club. If, like I said before, the book club is going to be a lot of fun. So it's going to be just like that trivia thing. So if you're interested, you just want to hang out and talk Civil War stuff, we're going to talk about that book. If you haven't read the book, no big. If you have, that's great. It's a great book. I hope you enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
It
I
will
was
be.
reading. I'm almost done. I was reading it this morning. I want it to be made into a movie or a mini series because he writes the same way Jeff Shara does.
Mhm.
I can see it playing out in my head. You know, um,
Yeah. He
it's
the
to
thing
me,
the
it's
thing
just
about
as good as Jeff
the
Shara.
thing about Eric is it's just like just so you know, he's a fireman from Wisconsin. That's who he is. He is not a Jeff Shara, son of Michael Shara
Yeah,
type of author. He's a guy who decided to, he was a history nerd like us, decided to write a book. And it is so good. And he captures that humanity with the history, and he's so tight with the history.
he is.
And he's a great dude. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
So his book is one that I think a lot of people I think really need to see. In my opinion, Mary, it's up there with Killer Angels as far as historical
No, it
fiction.
is.
I will put that at that level of
I
top
agree. It
top
is.
quality.
It is. Jim
No.
says that it's not quite grabbing him right now, but he said his late husband said that sometimes if you are not feeling it, you just have to put it down and come back to it later. Jim, that's happened to me many times with books
See,
where I
the
just
thing
have
about the
not been
thing about
feeling it, put it down, come back to it when I'm in a better, in not a better mood, but a different mindset. So I
see
totally understand what you're saying with that.
see the thing about Black Iron Mercy though, it takes about half the book to get into.
Yeah.
Once you get about 150 pages in, it takes off. And
Mhm.
that's where you got for the beginning pages talk about a lot of it's a little slow to get started, but it's
It is.
building. Once you get about halfway through, Jim, I'm telling you, Jim, you are gonna love it when you finish it. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I
You
love
know,
Arliss. He's a cool character. Um, who is it here? Oh, Jim, Lisa's husband said, "Love this. I am hooked. Thanks." Oh, you're welcome. We're so glad you joined us.
definitely jumped on. Definitely, it's a lot of fun. There's not a lot of places we can just kind of talk casually about this stuff and just have fun with it. And
Yeah.
like we said, no
And
opinion
I
is
mean,
wrong.
these are conversations we have when we're, having virtual beers and stuff. And Snyder said he wasn't into it until the influenza chapters. Yeah,
But
that's and
right,
that I had to stop reading at one point because I'll probably talk about this in the book club. That part made me cry because I
the
related because
influenza
of COVID.
part, the whole part with the dress and all that.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point, it grabs you and goes. And obviously, Jim, you're not there at that point yet. It does take a little bit of time to go, but I'm telling you, you are gonna love it once you finish. Just
Yeah.
keep chugging away with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. It just
It
really,
is.
really
No,
is.
it's really, really awesome. Robert says, "Hey guys, I'm at a beautiful day and the acres are calling. Have a great day, Robert.
Yeah,
So glad
Robert,
you
definitely.
joined us."
We'll talk to you soon. We do this every Saturday, so you're obviously always welcome, and we got a lot of fun stuff planned. So, all right, Mary, let's get ready to sign off here.
Yep.
It's warming up here, so I've got a cigar to smoke on my deck later on, so I'm gonna go take care.
Ooh.
We're gonna go take care of that. So, all right. So, any questions from you, Mary? MVP of the episode.
Garnett.
Okay. Really? Okay.
Garnett and Kimball. Those are my Confederate and
Kimball's got to
Union.
be the guy.
Yeah, Kimball for
Um,
Union, Garnett for Confederate. How about you?
I would say definitely Kimball for the Union.
Yeah.
For the Confederacy, I mean,
I'm
it's tough
giving
to
it to
say.
I'm giving it to Garnett because he was dealing with no orders. The pressure of being in charge of the Stonewall Brigade on him must have been crazy. And I think he did in the heat of the moment what he thought was right. And, he became the scapegoat for this battle and it ultimately cost him his life.
It was, and the fact that he was a scapegoat, but you see how it affected him later on with the war and how it affected him. I mean, think about it. This was Kernstown was a battle that took place in March 23rd, 1862. July 3rd, 1863 at Gettysburg, a year plus later, this was still front of mind for Richard Garnett.
Yep. And he's going into that battle with a fever, having been kicked by his horse. And he dies within 20 yards of the
And when
ankle.
you're called a coward by the legend of the time, you never
Yep.
forget that.
Yep. And that's why this actually made me so that's why I'm Team Garnett too, is because Stonewall was so unfair to him.
He was. But that's the case. So anyway, so we will jump off now. We're going to call this a day. So, Mary, the pleasure was all yours. Again, we say this all the time, and we will talk soon. So we'll be doing Five Forks next week, and we will talk about this next Saturday, and then of course a week from Wednesday we will do our book club talking about Black Iron Mercy.
Yep.
Finally.
Yes, finally.
This thing's been going on for friggin' forever.
I know it
so
does. It's like, oh my God.
definitely. But
Wait,
again, thanks
guys,
everybody
thank you
who
for
joined.
everybody.
Yeah, everybody who signed on.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to the people who signed on today, especially those who are on the book club and the round table the other day. Always welcome to jump on in. Email us at info@civilbreakfastclub.com if you ever want to join the round tables, which I suggest you do. Frankly, I don't know why you don't. If you don't, because
They're
it
a
is
lot
so
of
much fun, and we will definitely have fun with this down the road. So, Mary, any final words from you?
No, just thank you to everybody who's signing on to this and who comes on to this and joins us every Saturday morning. You are what makes the Civil War Breakfast Club community work. And Darren and I couldn't do this podcast without you guys. So you're awesome.
Definitely, absolutely.
And huge thank you to Darren for again being the awesome co-host he is.
Oh, it's always a lot of fun doing this, and Tony, definitely take care as well, my fellow Waltham guys. So definitely looking forward to him down the road. All right, Mary, we will talk to you soon. We will catch up with everybody else. Thanks everybody signing on, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
See you guys later.
See ya.